Well, Sam, a week where plenty happened on and off the field. A lot of rain about, but that rain was good because it disguised our tears. And whenever you're feeling sad, guys, look at the Buddha, put some sunnies on him. It'll all be okay. How you feeling, Socko?
Well, mate, I'll tell you what. I'm feeling like Tommy Turbo didn't pray to that Buddha today. Mate, things have gone pear-shaped for a couple of SuperCoach players. Things have gone pear-shaped for a couple of SuperCoach coaches, mate. And, look, I'd be one of them. I was one of them last week, and I'm one of them again this week. But I think we'll get into that tonight for the viewers. Mate, I was wondering, do we have our special guest presenter here tonight?
Well, he was here last week and you were not, so we do have some explaining to do, but I'll let you work on that explanation and introduce our guest. Not even our guest, our co-host. He goes by the name SC7, recently rebranded as DJ7, and now, like Luke Brooks, he is unleashed.
Fellas.
Yeah.
How are we, boys?
Good, mate. Good. Good to be back. Good to be back in between the two of you.
Good to have you back, Socko. We're starting to think you're a one and done, mate. So really nice to have that familiar face in here again.
No, mate. After my SuperCoach scores last week, after Sunday night, I think I went and ordered everything that Jimmy Brings has to offer and applied it to myself liberally, and was paying for some sins last Sunday.
Fair enough, mate. Well, it's nice to have you back on.
Yeah, it seems like Jimmy brings some excuses onto the pod. But we do need to please explain what did happen with the Stone Street selection last week. Socko, please talk to us. We've been waiting for answers for about 7 days now. How's the mental health?
Yeah. Well, mate, look, I don't think you can explain that. It was an absolute rocks or diamonds play. I've come up rocks and, look, I've probably gone again for a rocks or diamonds play this week and come up rocks. So watch this space because next week, I promise you, there is going to be a cooked captain selection, but it's going to make sense. You're going to see the score. You're going to like the score. And I'm going to feel a hell of a lot better about my SuperCoach results, next Sunday.
For someone who's not a gambling man, Sock, like yourself, just surprising with these bold selections, mate.
Yeah, mate, look, fortunately I'm able to stay away from, the sports bets and the tabs. So, mate, I've got to get my fixed gambling on SuperCoach captains.
Yeah, that speaks to me on a spiritual level, sir.
What, like the Dapto dogs?
I am enjoying it. I'm joined by two marked men, that's for sure. One thing that has really thrown off one of our viewers tonight is Cam Wynn coming in from the top rope early. Here comes the money. Introduce him as Styles, though. Fuck me. Styles.
Yeah, Cam Wynn, massive. The fact that I haven't come into Shane O'Mac yet, big dick swinging, is a fault on my part. So I'll be the first to put my hands up there, Cam Wynn, and apologise for that. But watch this space.
Never say never, though. Never say never with the Shane O'Mac entrance. I feel you're just 1,400-point week away before you come.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I want to be coming on a big score when I'm pumping Shane O'Mac, but that time will come. Baby.
Well, I mean, you keep doing us every other week.
Speaking of the week, boys, how do we go? Let's go around the table. Socko, you want to lead us off? How did Socko's Snickers go in the head-to-head against Tanny's Late Mail this week, mate?
Mate, I've dropped my head-to-head against you, Reese. I hang my head in shame. Stuff really. It was a close fought battle there towards the end, but unfortunately the boys couldn't get it done for me, mate. I've cracked 1102. Captain Gutho this week, which was an absolute all or nothing play. I think playing Arthurs over Shibasaki probably tilted me on Friday night, and my decision making hasn't got any better since. Where other people learn from their mistakes, I've got to make them probably another 4 or 5 times before I get it all together. So, mate, look, things to come. Cracked 1100. Happy with that. Was sitting on 940 or something today before the game started. So, bit of safe half truth helped save my weekend.
Yeah.
What about you, Jugas? How'd you crack on, mate?
Mate, first of all, stop emailing Sangster asking for Stone Street updates, mate. It's not coming through. You already finished on last week. It's fine. So I'll leave that one with you, Big V.
Not coming.
Mate, do you know what? It's funny old week in SuperCoach. You would have been better off looking at a Payne Haas or a Terrell May. A lot of those captaincy options, everyone was frothing turbo. We got 25 odd. Nico Hines was pretty lucky to get the only try assist in that game. So, I think anything above 1,100 this week, and you kind of take that and just, move on to the next week. For me, we had some good standout performers. Naf White and Seyfarth, mate. I'm a big Seyfarth truther.
Oh, yeah.
As we were talking about earlier, read the tea leaves correctly. Actually left Jesse Arthurs out and played Shibasaki, which was a great play. Tamale was really impressive. No one who is really concerning me too much in my team at the moment. Tuapolotu wasn't great, but I feel like when you bring in those big cash gen guys with your Gutho and CT, we always knew this week against Storm was going to be one you probably had to swallow. Aside from that, a lot of people like me are probably left still with Reece Walsh. We'll probably touch that more on that more later when we go over that game. But it's just something where he's already dropped a shitload in cash. Are you going to move off him now? And besides that, Metcalf, mate, for a bloke who scored a try, kicked about 19,000 conversions and goals, finish on 50. He can. He'll be getting ready to learn Chinese pretty shortly, I believe. But look, 1171. I will give one shout out to the great and powerful Keaton, one of the gibberers. I actually texted the boys going to that final game. It was a good old Seyfarth versus Dewey off. We were projected the same score. Dewey ruled out. So thoughts and prayers with you, Keto. But the better man did win this time, unfortunately.
I think that might be the second time in as many weeks that Keats has copped a spray off one of you two blokes.
Look, from what I've seen, he did all right on the old double today, mate. Had a bit of double and doubled in some success. So I think he'll be all right licking his wounds in the head-to-head. Provided he keeps fucking those bookies.
Now, Reece, the big question for you, mate. You've come in wearing a Stuart McGilty cap. Last week you were on the edibles, mate. This week the score looks a bit better. How did you fare? But how did Tanny's late mail score?
Well, the score does look a little bit better. 1135 for me, which is probably the second most I've scored all season. So we'll take that here at Tanny's Late Mail HQ. I look across my side and. Obviously we're going to get into a week out of Dog of the Week in a second, but there's no one that was really that bad. I just think my team's shit, to be honest. No one's really done poorly. No one's really done too much. I made 3 big dick moves, which is ironic for obvious reasons, but I brought in Jaden Campbell, Tino, and then who was the other clown? Nico Hines, that's right. Brought him in this week. Obviously you're pretty happy with those trade-ins on Tuesday or Wednesday, in brackets, Monday. And you look at the bomb. The bomb's not saying much. And then the heavens open like you're in bloody Piccadilly, London, come Friday. And, as it turns out, halves don't really go too well in the wet. So Nico and JC combining for about 120 each, which ironically was also Nico's captaincy score for me. Not a lot to write home about. Only one score below 50, 2 scores below 50 this week. That was in the form of Jesse Arthurs. Thanks for coming. I'll take you 150 and see you next year, mate, potentially. And Robert the Truth Toya, 45 all in base. Aside from that, look, I'll take a Bullimore line break for a 46. Happy to have Tino in, as cheap as he is, with a 77. And then Terrell May, who we'll get into in a second, boys. As is my caption here. Why did we let May go? Why did we let May go? Comes out today, plays the full 80, and just says that he's the second best prop in SuperCoach and the second best prop in the world. So really good from the Roosters management there to move
just
him
on that
on.
winner. I think it's quite ironic that the last 3 weeks you have been cursing anyone wanting to play Jesse Arthurs. You finally bite the bullet, and the one time you played, you put something about 30 odd, mate. So the writing was on the wall as soon as you were starting, mate. I had my Shibasaki boots on, so thank you for that little heads up.
Guys, as a general rule for this season, we're a month in, and it isn't Aberration anymore. Everything I say is probably going to be wrong, okay? Like, for the first couple of weeks, water off a duck's back, move on from it. Whatever I say in the next half hour, 45 minutes, however long the show goes for, take it with one of the great grains of whatever Sock put into himself last weekend. A bloke that did not have a terrible week. Well, actually, to be fair, we all had pretty good weeks. Like, the spirits are high. We didn't captain Turbo. And shout out to those that did. Listen, it's a long season, guys. I think Socko last year, you and me would have captained Garrick at one point for one of his 8s. Nico got a 5. A lot of people captained him. It is what it is.
Street last week for a 19.
Yeah. What happened? When did he go off? Oh,
he played the whole game. Oh, gross.
Our winner this week, the top scorer, was Ryan of can't remember his team name's fame. Actually, it was Haas and Titties. Really good and original there from Ryan. And his message is follows. My message to the gibberers is this. Shout out to all the gibberers who hopped off Prestomania. That's it.
Yeah, aren't you one of them, Reese?
Mate, I hopped off him in, when would it have been? Mid-January. Actually, probably not. I think it was about 3 minutes before kickoff in round 1. Vindicated up until last night. That's for sure.
Yeah, nice.
Any messages for Ryan there, boys?
Nice to see Presto get a daddy ton back on the left.
What did he put up, winner?
12.79, mate. 12.79, which a man can only dream of.
Man, this type of fucking shit ass of a week. Well done, Ryan. Are we going to try
Speaking
and get
of
him
daddy,
on the power?
Nah, he just requested to read that message out, so he's kept it short and sweet.
So long story short, we've been faded.
Speaking of daddy scores, one of our goats, one of our spirit animals on this show on a Sunday night does chime in early. And his name is Big Daddy. I'll read this out for you, boys. I'm so back, baby. My once deflated hog has now put a hole in the gyprock. Not even a vegan gummy can deflate my raging member after a late T-high/T-May spit roasting of my opponents.
Big Daddy, the gift that keeps on giving. Glad to hear it's been a joyful Sunday for Big Daddy. That Lee, I think he top scored actually in that game. So that's a good little pick there from my favorite Big Daddy.
No comment, Sock.
Mate, sorry, I'm busy thinking about the physics of putting my deflated hog into a hole in a gyprock wall.
I'll tell you what, given the quality of the gyprock going around Sydney at the moment, it wouldn't take much, would it?
I think they've got worse in Thailand at the moment, mate.
Before we get into our week gutted dog of the week, one thing that Big Daddy did mention is a vegan gummy. And SuperCoach Late Mail actually chimes in the comments. Ask the question, gummy time. Well, is it hammer time? No, because you got 30 points on the weekend. But is it gummy time? I'll let you be the judge. I'll let Jugas take away with week gutted dog of the week, and I'll reach to my left.
Yes, thank you, winner. It is time again. Now, boys, you actually missed the inaugural week gutted dog of the week last week. Not sure if you caught the replay. Yeah, we see your winner. I'm not sorry if you caught the replay, but you actually were our week gutted dog of the week. We did wish you well, the best with your recovery. Has the itching and sensation gone down yet after that tablet?
Mate, a couple of courses of antibiotics, and I'll be right back to playing performance.
Good man. Yeah, boys, week 2 of Week Gutted Dog of the Week. Again, sponsored by Jamin Salmon, who is sporting a new blonde mullet from the eye test on the weekend. And also sponsored by Better Call Saul, the best in the game. Get a quote.
Yes, sir.
He doesn't always
get a quote or get fucked.
Yeah, boys, my Week Gutted Dog of the Week. I'm actually going the money man, Christian Tuapolotu. Look, it's always a bit of a risk when you bring in someone who can be rocks or diamonds at 552K. I think he ended up posting around about 32. He didn't really look up for it as much this game. Obviously, I think that will change. Looking at the Dragons' next 2 games, boys, once we suffocate this one, next week they've got the Eels, then they've got the Titans. And after that, I think it is Manly. But the next 2 games, I think that could be points galore. But bringing in those two boys. I originally had my eyes on Pappy. Bringing in two new guys who scored a combined about 70 points was a bit disheartening. So, congratulations. You are my week gutted dog of the week.
Can I get an honourable mention in there for Braden Trindle with a what I believe was a 15?
Socko, it's not an honourable mention, mate. Who is your week gutted? Everyone chooses a week gutted dog, mate. So please take it away.
Yeah, mine goes to Braden Trindle. Trickies look good the past couple of weeks. 40-20s like this. Laying on try assists for Nico week before. Mate, he had it all going on. He's pulled out a damn near ton last week. 97, great result. He's gone for 15 last night, 15 of the absolute best. Look, for me and for that reason and the fact that Iongi, my flex, played over him, he'd be my week gutted dog of the week. And it will be an interesting ownership ride with him, very similar to Metcalf, I think.
Just with that one, voice, I was a bit preoccupied last night watching a horror movie, trying to get a start. Oh. Was he just not involved in the game too much with Tricky Trindle, or what do you think?
Mate, look, he was trying. It just wasn't happening for Cronulla anywhere across the board, right? Like we saw that with Nico and only getting that one try assist. The game was kind of played really through that middle. When Trindle got the ball in his hands, it was knock on or a kick dead in goal. Like instead of tumbling over the sideline, it just went all pear shaped. But I think you can say that for pretty much that whole game for Cronulla, right? Like, I mean, look, obviously, some of their forwards there. I think Britton Nickero only pulled out a 42. Like it just wasn't a great game for them as a whole. Obviously not great for Reesbury and Nico, and him only go for 60 with the C on his back. So, just one of those nights.
I think early optics this year show probably that you can add Bulldogs into that team that you just don't really want your team versing on a when you've got those gun players you're expecting points from, man. Their defense is just unreal so far this year.
It was one of those spoiled games, right? Like just an absolute street fight in the gutter. I think Reese took off halfway through it to go and deep throat some I Love Pizza or something.
Yeah.
But some of us actually care about our jobs here at Tandy's Late Mail Enterprises, and I actually sat through that, and boy, what a punishment was that! Glad you got a start, though, Jiggers.
Yeah. Hopefully she's not watching.
Nice. Glad you can.
If you are watching, what a time! See you again soon.
Call me.
You left something over. What did I leave? Nothing. Just come back.
Your respect.
Mate, Jesus Christ. Oh, mate. We're off.
Winner, who is your week gutted dog? Hit us with it.
Mate, honestly, as I said before, I don't really have too many people I can throw the book at. Probably just myself for fucking making the wrong decision since Team Picker opened. In the words of Tame Impala, Ocean Alley, where do we go? Where do we go from here? Really, really concerning stuff across the board there. But if I were to throw a shade at someone, fuck. Toya, mate, 45. I know you're a rookie. It's just not good enough.
I know your price is $287, but come on, pick it up, champ.
Yeah, we synonymized you with Tower 7, a structure that fell over. Please don't do the same. Speaking of week gutted dogs, Patty chimes in for the first time tonight. How are you, Patty? Patty says, question for you, lads. He or she says, did Jamin Salmon think a bleach mullet would make him faster? If we think it worked, when are you blokes on the pod doing it? Hashtag Speedy Man of Blonde. Hashtag drink.
I reckon you go all right with the dead animal on the top of your hair, Reese.
Yeah, so you both have the hair to work with.
If it doesn't look good, I can just Stu McGill myself again. So it's all good. Jiggers, you got a bit of a sun-kissed Sunshine Coast tinge to the old locks there. Are you talking yourself into a strawberry blonde kind of setup, or
mate? Believe it or not, I'm receding at a pretty fast rate. What you see is not quite reality, mate. I'm combing this thing over about fucking with an inch of its life cunt just to keep it covering all the spots up. So I don't think I could grow a mullet if I tried to. But maybe something else, maybe some type of faux hawk could be the better option for me. I think one of you boys could be doing the mullet.
Mate, if you are seeding, I got a couple of pills in me bathroom that'll help you when you're in town next week. Allegedly.
Yeah. I'll be in town in 4 days, mate, and we'll blow up that mattress, baby.
Speaking of week gutted dogs, Cam Wynn barely cracked 1,000 this week. Thanks, Obama, aka Turbo. Well, tell you what, at least one of them's still active in the public eye. And then CBD 2110. Not sure where that postcode is. V, maybe look it up. When's Turbo going to the glue factory? Well, that might be a good segue into talking about that game, lads. A game that, to be fair, Dinkum, with you, yes, I did walk out on Nico last night. Just like it, I'll leave that one alone. Sorry. No, listen. Walked down that game last night and then walked out on this Manly game today to go to the sauna when they went over for the second try. I was just looking grim as a non-turbo owner, which all of us are. But it ended up being, fairly tight. Well, not tight game. You know what? I didn't really watch half of it. What are your thoughts on what happened down there at Brookie today?
I'll field this one, I suppose. Mate, yeah, look, pretty much a non-starter, right? Like they kind of scored the first 12 points pretty quickly, or first 10 points. Then, they had a couple of sets in good ball position. Garrick bangs over a penalty goal, Turbo bung leg, and it just stagnates probably for the next 30 or 40 minutes. Took, I think, about another 36 minutes for a point to be notched in the game. So it was a bit of a non-starter this afternoon. Then Manly just kind of, had a bit of a flourish late, came over the top of Para, which is, I suppose, like something we're talking about, right? Like in the call earlier on, why the fuck would you risk Turbo in a game against Para, who will just get run over the top of late, like respectfully? It seems like a really bad decision. It doesn't seem like Turbo is right to go at all. Nevertheless, digress. Yeah, look, Para bad. Wait till Moses back and hope. Same old, like, look, they're improving in patches, but nothing to write home about. I suppose, like, look, some of the relevant scores that I would have picked up this afternoon, I suppose, would be, look, Turbo 23, obviously, as we've kind of touched on. He's done his MCL in the other knee, apparently. On the coverage, they said, the word out of Manly is he'll be back next week. If I was moving like that, I don't think anyone would have me back ever. So I'd take that with a grain of salt if you do own him. Yikes if you held him, or yikes if you brought him in. Sorry, guys, you'd be trading him back out. I think Lehigh was pretty interesting, as DJ7 kind of alluded to earlier, with that 87 today, top scorer of the game, hit his break even. Depending how long Turbo's out, does he become a buy, right? Does that fullback's really that linchpin, especially attacking out of Manly's own end? Does that really do things for Lehigh there? I think Zach with a 48 again is just a case as well. Womack's, look, he needs Moses back. Brown is not firing, and I'm sure DJ7 can run us through the ownership of Dylan Brown, because I don't own him. But look, I think his break, it needs Moses back. I think his break even 74 next week. So look, you'd probably be able to pick him up in a couple of weeks when Moses is back at a handy price. He did start goal kicking today, though, so well done, Zach.
Thank you, double. Thank you, double.
Over 2 from 2 today. So great result for Zach with the boot. Just probably need some more points to capitalise on. Well, it depends how it's been the last couple of weeks. I'd hate to have been owning him for the last couple of weeks. He couldn't score in a brothel with a pocket 400s.
Right. You're speaking from experience there, mate.
Oh, mate.
Those flashbacks from last weekend.
Jugas, so you went into this game with your customary 3 Parramatta players. You actually sent us a funny text going into the game saying, every Sunday your hopes rest on 3 Parramatta players and a couple of Tigers players to finish off. Brown, Hopgood, Yongi, and then you had the C on Ruben Garrick. Take it away, mate. What were the emotions like going?
I feel like a lot of people at this stage of the year holding on to Iongi, Dill Brown maybe, but Tigers and Eels, man, they've been flooding my Sunday and I've been hating every fucking second of it. Couple of things to touch on for that game. I think, Voice, you probably mentioned a lot of it. I think early in the game, you're thinking after the first try, by how many. It just shows you when Turbo's obviously sweeping in that back line when they're in the attack, they're so lethal, and without him there, they just don't have that same fluidity. So that game just became a bit of a poo slinger, to be honest, for about the middle 40 minutes of that.
Right.
SuperCoach relevant scores. Look, Garrick was 64. Considering he didn't score, man, I had the captain on him. I'm not holding on to too much hope for updates. Like every single time he ran an 8-meter hit up, I was basically checking receipts as it went on that game, mate. I was pretty tense. As far as the Eels go, man, like Dill Brown again saved himself with that kick at the end, some late time cheese to put Sean Lane over, which put a smile on my face. My biggest concern out of that is I'm probably still holding on to Brown. I know there's still quite a lot of Brown owners out there. I wouldn't really be hitting the panic button, man. Like if you actually look at his scores, considering how shit and uninvolved he's been, it just makes me think when he actually gets involved in a game, he's going to actually be able to produce some good scores. So I'm not hitting the panic button on him yet. There's bigger fires to put out. I'd actually be more concerned from a perspective of being a Hopgood owner. Again, this year, I just don't really see that type of ceiling he has. He put up 52 today. That may update to 55 if he's lucky. Like I know we got a bit of an update last week, but I think for Hopgood to have a higher ceiling, he's really going to rely on them being a better team. So I'm pretty happy to move on him. The only other one, mate, the curious case of Iongi. The bloke tries so hard to be in a game. Yeah. I know he threw that forward pass late in the game. He runs so hard. So I think after this game, he'll have a break even going to next week of around about 20 odd. So I wouldn't be moving off him yet, but I think in the near future, he could probably be an upgrade because, I think I've played him every single week bar round one. And just with the amount of opportunities the Eels are getting on a weekly basis, it just kind of seems like he's pretty limited in how much he's going to score. So those are probably my most relevant takeaways from the game, besides from Jason Saab's really landed back on earth after flying for the first couple of weeks. Welcome back, Jason.
Yeah, just on Voldemort there, Yongi, his break even next week will be 12, and he'll go up a whopping 14.9k. So it's probably the definition of a slow burn at the moment, but yeah, that 12 break even is manageable. Hopefully, you'd think. Yeah. Just on Hopgood, 59 minutes today. He's going pretty close to 1 ppm, so I don't think it's like panic stations.
You think Dill Walker coming in affects that?
Well, that's a great point, Jugas. Does that actually maybe even help Hopgood? Because one thing I've noticed watching Jermaine this year, he's doing a lot of distributing and he's not really tucking on. When he gets it, he gets swarmed, which is represented again today by most of his runs being under 8 meters. Dylan Walker's a really good distributor of the ball. So maybe when he comes on, Hopgood then gets into the front row rotation, takes some carries off one of the great spuds, Joe Offahengawe, 200 games of, nothing really. That might mean good things, but the offload's kind of there. Look, he's just gonna be a guy averages 60 at least for the foreseeable until they start getting better because he's doing a lot of tackling. That sucks because he cost 700 and however much K at the start of the year, wasn't it? Was he like 7? No, not quite. He was like 660.
Yeah, high 600s.
Yeah, but similar to with Walsh, at this point, you probably just got to ride it out. And at this point, they're at like such low value that moving them on to anyone is just going to be, to anyone good is going to either be sidewaysy or, you're going to then downgrade him to a guy and he's going to come back and go good. So, yeah, it sucks, but long term should be all right, man.
Let me ask you, as someone who doesn't own Jermaine, like, does he then become a buy? Like, he surely bottoms out over the next week or two, right? Look, you'd say Moses is probably, 3 to 4 weeks away, something like that. Like, I kind of heard sort of round 8 being the figure that was floated for Moses' return, which, you'd imagine will sort of change Para's fortunes. I suppose, yeah, like, is Hopgood someone that you can now look at picking up on the cheap for those of us that don't own him?
Yeah, well, next week his break even will be 69. Nice. And he'll drop 29k. So he's 626, which means he's going to be 597 next week. That break even is fairly manageable. Yeah, I don't, you'd be about one of about 18 blokes that traded him in, but we've already seen with Preston this week, who we'll get to in a sec. But these guys can come good. They've got the resume for a reason, and zig when others are zagging type
Well,
shit.
I think like touching on that, mate, like something that you did really well last year, I know that put you in really good stead for your time at the top of the SuperCoach table was getting guys in at the right time. I seem to remember Angus Crichton, David Fafita, guys like this. Like you managed to kind of get them on a couple of price drops. That break even kind of is leveled out, and then you pick them back up as that team starts to pitch in the right direction. I'm just wondering if Jermaine Hopgood doesn't present that same opportunity, right?
Potentially, man. Potentially. Wait for the dust to settle on like the Turbo thing, the Dewey injury, whoever else got hurt this week. Cleary coming back. Something to note, something for the spreadsheets. Another guy that was interesting is Kitione Katonga, 232K, played the full 80 minutes today on the edge, 45 points. So nothing like Reece Martin.
Kind of threatening. He looked threatening with the ball in hand. He was creating too, kind of playing a bit of that, I suppose, Luciano Leilua role. There was a couple of balls over the top in that second half.
See someone on the radar for sure as a downgrade option. I mean, I like the look of Hubner next week. I don't actually have him in my team yet, so I'll be trading out Jesse Arthurs after he's 27 on debut for Tanny's Late Mail and saying sayonara. That's about it. I mean, we do love to see Lomax doing 48. That's going to be fantastic when Moses comes back. He might be a sideways trade from Skelton et al. Olaquatu with a 62 and Burbo with a 61, including the try assist. Before we move on to the next game, Socko, a bit of fan mail. This one comes from Big Daddy. He says, for Socko, I'm a 34-year-old perverted gibber that resides in my uncle's basement. It has been all downhill since Dad made me walk home after a golden duck in the under-12s. I know how you feel, Big Daddy. Tips on meeting a woman.
Mate, I'd probably start off by not talking to her about SuperCoach, eh? not unless she's in the Gibrettes chat. That'd probably be my first tip. Mate, look, I've heard acting. Acting could be a great role for you, Big Daddy. Obviously, you're kind of playing a role here in the chat tonight. And, mate, there could be some Shakespeare in you yet. So, mate, join a local production. I'm sure you'll be able to find a young, single, lovely woman who might look past your basement dwelling.
Yeah, she'll look past your golden duck under 12s, mate, because we all had them, some more than most, including Dylan over there, who, like myself, was a right arm fast in brackets medium opening bowler.
Yeah, I mean, the one tip I'd probably give on that is if you're watching this podcast, I think you've already got your fishing pole in the wrong place, mate. So the best place to start. Best of luck to you, Big Daddy.
Yeah, listen, not to out myself, but there's no chance half the gibbers in the comment section have got to start anytime in recent memory. That's for sure. Socko, you've gone on mute, mate.
Yeah, no, that's all right, mate. I was just giggling, and my chair was squeaking. My location in the basement isn't too friendly either.
Your chair was squeaking, and my bed ain't. We'll move into the game that we just watched here, boys. Not a lot to cover here, so I guess we can zip through it. Terrell May, as already mentioned, played the full 80, 97 in base, a few offloads to come, dropped the pill over the line. Again, for the second time tonight, why did we let May go? Just unreal. What a player. That 1-2 punch in Origin this year is going to be bloody awesome to watch, isn't it? As New South Welshman, boys, him and Haas. Struth. I'll skip over the guy who scored well for West. So one of that you boys have your victory lap with the truth there. Galvin, 54. He continues to drop a little bit of cash. Seems as though Luai is certainly playing that backseat role. Galvin is just all over the shop, isn't he? He's playing as he normally does. But I think that Galvin's going to be the one who's in the SuperCoach scoring positions for them. Luai with a 20 today. And then from the Wires, a couple of guys that caught my eye. Wade Egan with a 90. He actually averaged 70 going into tonight. Now, there's no hooker on the bench unless, Sam Healy gets a go. But, yeah, his average was 71 going into tonight. Pumps out a 90, including a line break assist, try assist. He's currently priced at 539K with a 4 break even. So he'll go up to around 600. I don't know anyone here is going to be paying 600 for Wade Egan, but, he's playing better than Harry Grant at the moment. That's for sure, lads. And another guy is Dimitri Vajamaga. Came off the bench. Socko, you played him, given AD did his groin in the... He looked really good, didn't he? I mean, he only played, I want to say 28 minutes, but he's got such a SuperCoach friendly game, lads. We've all held on to him. And it looks like he's going to be a semi-decent cash cow for us. Would you agree?
What, clearing his break even by about 5?
Yeah, more about that. Let's look next week.
Mate, look, yeah, he came on. He was breaking tackles like a monster. I actually think he only got about 25 minutes when I think about it. Mate, he was looking really good. Came on at the right time. I think the problem is just, look, obviously he's a second being transitioned to that middle kind of role. He's playing the middles. You'd love to see him get Jules in a couple of weeks when that updates. It's been touted. But I think the problem with him is his minutes, right? Like if the Waz pack is rolling downhill, they'll just give Fish and Barnett as many minutes as they can. Jackson Ford's obviously sitting there as well, who's probably ahead of him in the pecking order. Great cheapie and someone to have. You'd love to see him probably get more like 30 or 40 a game. That'd make him definitely a buy. I wouldn't be worrying about him right now if you don't already have him. I think Egan is the interesting one, as you kind of pointed out, right? Like compared to what Harry Grant and probably who you'd sort of say is the top tier hooker at the moment. Sterling obviously looked good in the first 2 weeks, but he's dropped off a little bit, and we'll touch on that a bit later. I think Egan's problem is always that durability, right? Like he's always been good for a shoulder or two a season. So, if he stays healthy, he's a great option. But, does he stay healthy is the question, and probably why I'd stay away.
Jiggers, anyone from your end that caught your eye in that West and Warriors game?
First of all, great game. Nice to finish Sunday, not with a Poosky, man. Especially I tipped the Waz, so that was a nice little victory to finish the weekend on. But those are both those boys off the bench, Halasima and Dimitri, both fucking rockets, man. You saw the try for Halasima. He was getting it with Terrell May all game as well, which was a pretty good watch. Mate, I've been huge on Seyfarth. That was at the start of the year, Tandy's late mail. You basically gave me a file of all your hidden folders, mate, and Alex Seyfarth was on there. I think you threw the towel in after round 2, and since then he's going to put up 73 followed by 84. He's gone up 53K with a break even of 2 for next week. I don't necessarily think it's too late to jump on the Seyfarth train. He's going to play 80 minutes every week. He's a dog man. He's in every single tackle. So, he really caught my eye the last 2 weeks. He's been outstanding. Aside from that, Wade Egan, it's a funny one again. Like, obviously, with Harry Grant, he's the guy that everyone has kind of got marked down when he gets the right price drop. But again, for all we know, Wade Egan could be doing this all year. He looks so crafty out of that spot at 9. So he definitely caught my eye. A couple of other guys dropped back to earth. I know, Voice, you were pretty keen on Ali Leatua. 42 for him today. Not too bad considering he didn't have much involvement in that game. And then also Taruva. I know there's a couple of people in the Gibberish chat who are asking about him as a potential pod, and that probably just shows you there is quite a flaw there if he's not scoring tries. But aside from that, I think you boys covered most of it. Terrell May's a freak. Anyone who doesn't own him, get your fucking head out of your ass.
They won't be watching this show. That's for sure.
No, I hope
Reece,
not.
I got a question for you, right? Yep. If Dewey's injury, I believe it was his groin, but if it turns out to be something more serious, do you give a look to Appy? Goal kicking, like obviously that's kind of helped him to that break even. Like does Appy become an option? Tigers obviously are seemingly not having trouble scoring points this year. Like they seem to be able to get to that 30 mark a game. Which is where I suppose someone who's got goal kicking has a decent amount of upside. Do you think about that?
Well, how about you riddle me this, Socko? Adam Dewey is a 5'8", and Coruscant's a hooker. How can I trade one for one?
I'm saying to get in a hooker. I'm just saying as a hooking option.
8:30 p.m., not the time the edibles have kicked in.
Listen, Reece, we know you've got jewels out your ass, mate. You could probably fucking make that trade happen if anyone.
Yeah, actually probably could. Yeah, you're right.
Boys, actually, on the game Before we
He's
move
not
on from
playing
that
80.
game,
Say it again.
Before we move on from that game, actually, question I had, because I feel like there'd be some people still in this position. We're all ready to get rid of Metcalf, right? He's got a break even now. I think this week he goes up around about 17K. And I think his break even for next week now it's 78.
Goes up
He's gone up
43K.
43K. What's your thoughts? Do you think he's a must move on?
Yeah, for sure. For me, he's peaked at price now. We've been lucky to get this much out of him. I mean, even today, you mentioned it before, like 55 or whatever it was. That was a struggle, man. He's actually pretty good optically, like in real life. Like he looks the part, to be fair, but his base isn't there. The Wars love to get Harris to beat her in space. He's averaging mid-50s this year at a much lesser price point. Yeah, look, I've had that Metcalf to Tom Jenkins trade locked in since probably Thursday afternoon. Not even Thursday night. I didn't even watch Jenkins play on Thursday night. It just looked good on Thursday afternoon.
You've already spoken about moving Jesse Arthurs on, yet you're still flexing on us that you're going to do it via someone else for no fucking reason. Just make the trade. That's the obvious trade sometimes, mate. We know you got.
Mate, so I'm trading Bully more for Cleary. How is that possible? I'll explain to you tomorrow if you want. But guess what?
Bradley working overtime. He's traded in and out 3 times in a round.
One other, just to answer your Appy thing, mate. He's not playing 80. They got Talon De Silva on the bench, who doesn't look like a terrible goal kicker either. So no real interest. But one guy that is semi-interesting, given the departure of Dylan Walker, is Aaron Clark, which, again, I'm pretty sure Aaron Clark went to PLC, right, Socko? But, yeah, he pumped out about 60 minutes today, 55, all in base. I think there's a couple offloads to come. Man, I really like Aaron Clark as a footy player. He's just a tough bastard through the guts. He's got a bit of aggro, got a bit of cunt about him. What's his break even going to be next week? It's 29. He goes at 25K. Look, it'll be a slow burn up to 600 from 450. Probably not a fantastic trade in, but someone if you already had, you're probably feeling pretty good about yourself right now, aren't you? That Jules handy. Maybe I do have a look at him. I need a 14th Jewel on my side.
Do you know how many minutes he got today? Because I know he's sitting around about the 45 to 46 for the first couple of rounds.
Mate, it was about 60, I reckon. I want to say 55, just because that's 1 ppm, and that licks my tism. Moving on to the Saturday night game that we already kind of alluded to before was the Sharks versus the Dogs. We could get into player specific in a second, but listen, that was the Dogs, to me, like stated their case as a premiership legit team last night. Those conditions are really conducive to the dog style of footy. They love that, that wet kind of ground where they just kick chase. That kick chase was unreal. They constantly had a really long line. Don't get excited about that one, Socko. All going forward at the defense. Yeah. Well, if you insist. And they just strangled the Dogs out of it, the Sharks out of it. Sharks scored 1 try, but yeah, the Dogs absolutely hammered them. None of those Sharks players were ever going to score a hell of a lot of SuperCoach points last night, especially not the attacking weapons. But yeah, one guy from the Dogs that is right at the top of the list and is also at the top of Socko's point scoring list this week is Jacob Preston. Socko, talk to us. How was that watching him on the left last night?
Mate, his hands in the wet. I don't know how much of the game you actually end up watching. But, mate, there were like 3 or 4 times where balls were thrown behind him, like just everything. Like he was able to tip it on. Mate, he was absolutely unreal in absolutely everything last night. 1 try assist. I believe a line break or 2 to go with that. Huge performance out of Presto. Rewarded the faith. Like, look, obviously I think he's scored now in 3 matches this year, I believe. There was sort of 1 junk try off a kick a couple of weeks ago, and then I believe he got over at one other point. But yeah, like really rewarded the faith. I think, look, while he stays on that left, he definitely looked more comfortable there. So I think whilst he's there and Kikau's out, he's a great option. I'd be interested to see what happens when Kikau comes back and he probably shifts back to that right side. Like, look, Dogs are very left side attack dominant, it seems. Whether it's Hayward or Burden there wearing the 6. So I suppose his value is while that's the dominant attacking side. Whereas, look, when Kikau's fit, they just sit him out on that right edge and sort of play to him as a setup play to go back to the left. So I think, look, if Kikau is out for a longer period of time, great. I sort of think that at the same time, if you don't have him, you're probably not looking to pull him in straight away. But look, it was a great result from him. I suppose a couple other scores that I wanted to touch on from last night. Samuel Stonestreet pulled a 49. Again, that was no tries this week. There was a couple of line breaks there. Break even goes up to 101 this week.
You gonna hold him?
Absolutely not. Unfortunately, I'll hold Jesse Arthurs over Stonestreet. Look, mate, I've said a couple of times over the last couple of years to you in passing, and I know you sent me a text about it last night. Cronulla are pretenders, in my view. Like, I just don't think they've got the ability to get it done in those tight, tough clashes against the better quality opposition. I think we saw that last night. Respectfully, it didn't really feel like they even fired a shot, and it did feel like they were on top through the middle for a lot of that game. They just couldn't ice the big moments. They had good possession and definitely good swings of it on Canterbury's line. They just couldn't get the job done. Sione Katoa will be coming back shortly. I believe he's back in a week or two. Field Street, 101 break even. Thank you. See you later. I'll take the 30 grand or whatever it is that you've gone up.
Thanks for nothing.
Yeah, thanks for nothing. Thanks for costing me my head-to-head last week. Great job.
And this week.
Probably, and this week. Look, I think for me, the interesting one that I like the look of, and look, people will talk about AFB. Some of you will have him, some won't. The one that I'm really interested in, and we timed this to perfection last year, was Britton Nickera. I believe he's going to be potentially sub 600K coming out of this week.
Well, I'll read it out for you. He's going to drop 35K. So what does he price that now, please? He's at 659.
So he'll drop to about mid 620.
Yeah, and his break even is 93. So I don't think it's the next week thing. And who do they even play?
It's a week or two after that, I think. I think he's a 2-3 week away. But like, Sharks have a great Origin cover, Origins 1 and 2. So if you picked him up, round 7, all right? I
don't know, mate. I don't know. Like, he scored 3 tries this year going into this week. And he's only averaging 61. I mean, if he scored a try a week last year, he was pumping out 90s, if you recall. I don't know if his base is clearly down. Nico kind of floating all over the shop. I mean, obviously he's going to be on the radar, but
for me, he's on the radar. For me, for that early Origin period, like, he's obviously not, not New South Welshman or Queenslander. Like, look, you could do worse than having Britton Nickera in your side, especially if you pick him up at mid 500s.
Yeah, you could have Hopgood,
yeah, whose only upside is base at the moment, right? So, like, at least Nickera knows how to find a white line.
Do you guess yourself anyone that you caught your eye last night?
The fine Sheila that was in my bed while this game was running. So I've taken a more data conservative approach this one, boys, with my limited eyes on the game. The two things that are of interest. First of all, I'll start with Bailey Hayward, currently sitting at 302,000. He's set to go up 53K, so he'll move to 355K with a break even of negative 34 next week. Obviously, I know that is a risky play. Is Burden expected back, next fortnight?
Mate, I think Birdo was 6 weeks. I could be wrong there. Soccer, you muted again. Hayward will stay at number 6, which actually means he should get dual status. Max Plath last year had that exact same dual, 2RF and 5'8". But continue. Yeah.
It's one definitely worth noting. Like, at the end of the day, he's going to be 355K, give or take a couple of thousand this week. He's got a break even of minus 34. If he's even got that sport for another 4 weeks, let's say, while Burden's out, mate, that could be a quick 200K elevator right up to a better player. So definitely one to keep an eye on. I don't know if that'll be my most important trade this week. I feel like the 1 week I really prioritized getting money in, it really affected me in the points that week. So I'll have to see how the depth's looking this week. Other one is, and I'm going to bring it back to Preston. So he's going to rise 44.7K. He's currently sitting on 586. So that's going to put him back to around about 630, right? He's got a break even of 26. If you're happy to admit that you were wrong in your situation, or if you feel like this is the right time to move on a good player, I mean, look, there's a good chance you're not going to be able to get him at 630 again. At the end of the day, you're going to get someone in who is a gun. He's got a break even where you will make money originally regardless. But, you know, if you want to move someone, you've got a bit of cash around to try and get in a season-long keeper. I feel like if you do optically like Preston, if you can put that up against the Sharks in a dogfight on a wet night, he certainly caught my eye, and he's probably one I might be looking to bring in this week.
Yeah, they play the Knights next week, and then they have a bye. Then they go into South Bronx. It's a pretty good run after that. Listen, you know, we said in the preseason on SuperCoach Late Mail Instagram. Check it out if not already following. And hey, by the way, if you aren't following, just DM me. Let me know why Manly got rid of Humphries. Still looking for an answer on that one. Yeah, no, as you said, like, mate, he's a walking 70. Like, anytime he plays 80 minutes for his career, he averages 70. I just, look, man, of course I'm interested in Preston. Always have been. Always will be. I just can't believe people traded him out. Like, I mean, man, he was doing nothing and still pumping out 50s. Like, that's what you pay for. Like, obviously, we know the upside is going to come. Those 3,000 teams that traded him out, that's a head noisy decision there. I think you're getting a bit vibey with it, doing that kind of stuff, which makes me think that Hopgood's due a 120, isn't he? Huge interest. I mean, in that 2RF slot, obviously Ali Katoa he's looking like the pick of the dogs. No pun intended there. Playing in the best side in the comp. He's an aerial threat. He's got soft hands, as we saw with that try assist to Pappenhausen as well. But Preston's not too far behind, is he? He's going to be a lot cheaper, 620K, as you said. Fuck, I wouldn't do it this week. I've got, 3 other moves to make via Jules, of course. But after that, he's sitting around that 650K. Eli Katoa's 720. Fuck, man, wouldn't mind a stab at the both of them. Maybe just lock down those 2 spots in 2RF for the year. And then we move on. And then we hope that Tamale continues to score tries from dummy half 15 metres out. Okay, a couple other things from that game that I was interested in. Jack Todd, not to be confused with Todd Williams. He's really good. He only played off the bench because of injuries, but pumped out a 20 in as many minutes. He's going to be a superstar of the future. Actually, that might be horse before carriage stuff. He's going to be a good SuperCoach player, put it that way. And then Nico Hines, a guy I brought in. Look, they got flogged-ish, and he's still pumped out a 60. Lovely try assist. One thing that held me off Nico in the preseason, boys, was the fact he was seemingly chained to the right-hand side of the post, and Trindle was on the left. But saw it last week against South. He's kind of getting both sides of the ruck, and that try assist was beautiful. Trindle first receiver, Hines the sweeper out to the left, feeds Kyle Uro, who did his string not long after. So happy to see that as a Hines owner, and for him to do 60 when they score six points, absolutely fine by me. If that's his floor, then happy to pay 750K for it. I suggest you boys get on ASAP, because anytime Nico's getting those kind of touches, sure, against the Dogs they kind of locked him out a little bit, didn't they, V, as you said? But against weaker opposition. AFB 78 through the guts. His break-even was 100, so he'll drop a little bit. It's the year of the front rower. Would you boys prioritise him as a trade-in option? I mean, he did play inflated minutes last night, I believe, due to a Talakai HIA. But how interested are you in AFB early?
Look, I mean, having watched that game, like he was immense through the middle, but kind of seems to have tucked away the offload, or is just not getting away those offloads. I'm not quite sure what's happened there with him. I think, if you're going Payne and Terrell May as 1 and 2, look, most of us are going to have Horse or Fasul Malawi. taking up another spot in the row, right? Look, I suppose if you wanted to put those two guys to your 2RF and have AFB in there, you could. I'm not looking to make a move on him yet. I still think there's probably a little bit of heat to come out of him, but definitely a handy pickup. Like he's not going to let you down. If you could have a front row rotation of Horsburgh, May, Haas, and him. You'd pretty much forget anything up in the engine room. Like you don't touch that for the rest of the year, right? So
hands off.
Again, look, he's not going to play Origin, so that as I sort of alluded to, Sharks great Origin cover for 1 and 2. So there's definitely some value in getting him in early.
Moving on
that note,
the game
on that note with AFB
that
as well.
up in. Yep.
Oh, have I got you the winner? I was going to say, mate, I was on that note with AFB.
What do you want to say about AFB?
I was going to say, you look at his 4 scores this year, he's got 92, 46, 61, 78. For a bloke who's priced at 688K when you've got Horse, you've got Payne Haas, you've got even Lindsay Smith, Nath White, May, the guys who we're not really seeing those 40s from or even a lot of those low 60s from. With his price being, it'll probably drop to around about the mid 600s, if that. I just feel like there's probably different areas and positions this year where you'd be looking for more X factor when there's so many solid front row options that you either probably have or can get for a similar output at a cheaper price. So I wouldn't be looking to move to him, but he could come into calculations at some point later in the year.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point you make there because at this stage of the season, we're still looking to get on those blokes who can make a bit of cash, hence why the both of you, rushed to bring in Christian Tuipulotu of Did He Even Play on the Weekend fame last week. We're looking for those guys to jump from that 500 to 650 and then move off them to other pieces such as AFB and Lomax and all these other guys. But yeah, that text I sent you boys a bit earlier with guys like, Drinky being 690 with a 93 break even, Tedesco, Fafita, Yo, add AFB to that list of guys to consolidate. And if I were to say anything that's important for our viewers, have a bit of a target list of these dudes who are dropping cash, and they're going to be the guys that you upgrade the 500s of this world. Like in an ideal world, Hubner gets there, Dimitri gets there. Obviously, Mamo's on track. We'd love Sandon and Iyongi, Skeleton, Tamale, Toya. These guys, we'd love them to get to 500k, and then we can then use that base cash plus about 100, 150 to then find these undervalued kings that we want, and we want them in as soon as possible because the sooner you have the guys that score points, the sooner you win SuperCoach. Moving into the second game on Saturday was up in North Queensland. No really need to go through the cows. I mean, Drinkwater is probably the only one that's of interest there. Purdue with a 51. I thought he looked really good. Negative break even, so he's starting to go back up in cash for those that held on. And then from the Raiders, I think we're all on Tamale and Horsburgh, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How'd you boys feel about, Horsburgh's Horsburgh, he's going to pump out 65 in his sleep, but how'd you feel about Tamale? What were his carries? I want to quickly read this out before I throw to you boys. He obviously got a line break try, but 19 runs and 9 tackle breaks. How stoked are you with that?
Mate, you couldn't ask a kid to do anything more, right? First year and he's flying. Looks like he'll be someone that you'll get up to 600k, probably with potentially even more. He looks threatening. Albert Hopewade failed to finish the game in New South Wales Cup. Gives him a bit more breathing room too if he has a bad game, if there's any long-term injury there. Obviously, that was kind of the logjam coming in was Savage, Tamale and Hopewade. Well done if you started with Tamale, and congrats to those who traded him in. He's rewarding us owners. I think the interesting one that I wanted to touch on as well is what caught my eye was Tarpany coming back with a vengeance off suspension with 92.
Another front rower.
Throw that into the mix. Do you then have May, Haas, Horse, Tarpany, AFB, horse to the row, and then get Tarpany and AFB. Again, he's at that 655k. I'm not quite sure. Do you have his break even sitting there.
For who, sorry?
Tarpany.
He'd only played one game.
71,
Yeah, 71.
71. I mean, look, you could probably do worse than him. You could probably wait a week. He'd probably I believe historically he's kind of averaged and been one of the best averaging front rowers in SuperCoach as well, right? So look, if you're looking for a pod and to move away from AFB, go against the crowd, I think Tarpany could be a great option there. Again, doesn't play Origin as he's a Kiwi, so you don't have that headache coming up with him either.
How'd you feel about Tommy Starling, Jugas?
Mate, it's tough because when you're on Starling, you're just sitting there, just literally keeping an eye out because you're going to see Owen Paddy come on at some point in the game. So you're really banking on the fact that if Starling was an 80-minute hooker, he'd basically be in everyone's team. He does so much when he's on there. He seems to be flying around everywhere. His production is great, but it just seems in the games with Canberra this year, they are going to be inconsistent. And when Ricky hits the Rick Noble button and goes nuclear, Owen Paddy comes on and Starling gets hooked, mate. So, look, I think I, like a lot of people, brought him in before that first price rise. He's going to go up again this week by 57K. Next week, he's sitting at a break even of 52. So I don't think he'll necessarily drop straight away, but we've probably found his sweet spot of where his true value lies. So, if you're someone, I was even thinking about it today, like if you really wanted to move on from him to Grant this week, it's not a bad decision. Grant may not go down more than what he is now. If you have bigger fish to fry, fair enough. But I think we're pretty much looking at what Starling's true value is. Thoughts?
Mate, how much is Starling priced at right now before that 60K jump?
He's currently sitting at 433. So he's going to be basically 490.
490, okay. And Grant's at 624 with a 121 BE. That break even for Starling next week's fairly achievable. He'll go within 5 points, higher or lower than that. So he's not going to lose a lot, not going to gain a lot. If you're going to make that Starling to Grant trade, don't do it this week. Do it next week because Grant's got 120 break even. We can get into Harry Grant in a second if he's even a decent enough option, but I wouldn't pull that straight away, but it's definitely one that's on the cards. Another one that's on the cards for both of you boys with Starling is via Connor Watson. Connor Watson has that hooker duel. He's going to be the second best, if not the best, averaging hooker in SuperCoach this year. You could move Starling to Watson to insert. I mean, who did we just talk about? Bailey Hayward. I mean, you're probably not going to do that, but like any kind of those, that Katonga guy, 232K guys, Halasima even if you're keen. That's also an important. You could even look at Starling as like a downgrade option for that. He's 490K, whatever, down to a 230 guy. That's 250K worth of bank. That's something to consider as well, for sure. But that Grant sideways trade or even an Egan is pretty appealing as well, isn't it?
I think it's quite interesting at that point as well. Like if you're in a fortunate position where you have a Starling and a Mamazoulos, at this point in time for the near distant future, like you can start Mamazoulos and pretty much bank a 50. With a couple of attacking stats, we can see you can put up those 80s or 90s. So, if you happen to have both those cheapies, you're not even really sacrificing points for the lay of the land in the hooker position right now. Obviously, as the season goes later on, you'd rather have a certified gun in there. But at this point in time, having Starling and a Mamazoulos or even a Sandon Smith, which some people probably still have in that hooking position, you've got plenty of options. I think one of the other big cash cows to talk about coming out of that game was Nicholson. A lot of people were pretty high on him. He pretty much did what I expected. I wasn't someone who was as keen as probably others to jump on that and make that cash from him. But, I mean, look, if you are on him, you've got a 77K price rise with a 30 break even next week. So just how much you're going to get out of that moving forward, I don't know what his minutes look like as they get their full rotation back.
Mate, I really like Nicholson. And Socko, we commented on this in the trials. Like, he's just a tough bastard, isn't he? Tough English bloke. He's got a really nice left fend. They tried to get him one-on-one with Dearden a couple of times on the weekend, but Dearden defended his ass off, to be fair. I think there's even a try saver on Nicholson at one point. So Nicholson's definitely got that upside in him. I noted he played 60 minutes on the edge and then transitioned to a woman, in the middle, with 20 to go. So he got the full 80 out, but yeah, this is always going to be the case. Like his base PPM's 0.54. That was represented itself on the weekend. You got Hosking coming back soon. Those hand injuries can be quicker than expected as well. I know it's a weird comment.
Takes a lot of minutes. Tarpany takes a lot of minutes in that Raiders pack too. Like they'll give Tarpany 50 to 60 a game as well.
Yeah, it's definitely not hop on Nicholson territory, but if you hold, yeah, like you should get 100k out of him, but I don't think he's going to be the home run kind of cash cow everyone thought he would be. A couple of comments here from Boxzilla. He says Nicholson or Trey, you can only take one. So Trey is not Trey Young, Trey Mooney, who started on the weekend. He only played like 20 minutes or something, which was weird. 26 points. Last week, you boys may remember, Trey Mooney pumped out 89, pretty much all in base power, a few offloads, a couple of line break assists. He's an absolute monster, but the minutes are weird, eh? Like 43 last week, no Tarpany. This week, Tarpany comes back. They play around with Sasangi, all this kind of weird shit. He only gets 20-odd minutes. Boxhill, to answer your question, in a vacuum, Trey Mooney for sure. His PPM's better. He's playing in the middle. I think he's got a, that offload's great for SuperCoach, where Nicholson's probably more of a try scorer. And he's a bit cheaper, but I don't think you can touch either of these guys right now. What do you boys reckon?
Yeah, I think if you wanted Nicholson, you're a week late.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Nicholson, you're late. Trey Mooney, like Tarpany coming back, you don't want to touch. Hosco coming back, you don't want to touch. The minutes will go down there. Look, I don't trust Canberra anyway, like as far as I can kick him. I sort of said that before the season started. They obviously came out, like had that great win against the Wires and then the Bronx. But then, look, their last two games have kind of been pretty forgettable, I'd say, like especially if you're a Raiders fan. Look, Horse is going to be reliable. Tarpany's going to be reliable in that pack. They're probably the only two that I'm looking at outside of, owning Starling. I already own Horse and Tarpany would be my only other consideration there.
Yeah, the Raiders play the Sharks next week. It's on Thursday night at GIO. And last time they played at GIO, Nico, 160 points, boys. I might have a little bit of a look at a VC on Nico, I reckon, on Thursday night. Thank you very much. Then again, Cleary plays.
Only other take out of that game I'd probably mention as well is just at some point of the year, man, with how bad the Cowboys have been and what drink he's been able to put up in some of those games, as the Cowboys get hot, man, he's got a 90 break even. He's going down about 32K. And I know that was some mentions in the gibberish chat. He could definitely be someone to look over the origin period as well. I just think at some point during the year, drink he's going to pop, and I wouldn't mind a slice of that sweet pie.
Well, listen, our co-host here, Socko, he doesn't own a house in Australia. Probably never will, realistically, and neither will any of us. And that's fine, We're still smiling. I'd rather smile than have 30 years of debt. But where Socko does own a lot of land is Drinkwater Island. We're actually neighbours on Drinkwater Island, Socko and I. We've been there. Well, Socko's been there a bit longer than me. A couple of lovely dwellings there. Looking at we actually had to abandon the island in pre-season. We just thought the tides are rising a little bit. Might go underwater. Global warming, glaciers, all that stuff. Look into it. Inconvenient truth. Al Gore. But Socko, hey, maybe trying to put a little bit of boat in. Bit of oil in the old boat engine. Get back. Look, over mate,
I'm over here trying to keep the house prices on Drinkwater Island down, so I wouldn't advise that any of you pick him. Hey, we'll keep that one quiet and to ourselves. Thank you very much. No, look, Drinky's a fantastic own. You're safe through the origin period. Like he won't get picked. Never need to worry about that. The goal kicking is his upside this year. Obviously, look, Cal's slow to start. That was probably what held you and me off, Reece. I think. Look, the moment Turbo got injured, you and I sort of both were like, all right, is it time? Is it time yet? Do we return? I think that return is coming. He dropped the ball over the line as well on the weekend. Like, it could have been a much higher score for him. So, look, he'll be the focal point of their attack this year, I kind of feel. Obviously, look, Clifford went over for 2 tries, two of the most outrageous catches you've ever seen of the footy. Over a fullback, KO Weeks. Where are you? People are still searching for you at the back there. Someone get an Amber Alert out on KO Weeks. He can't be found anywhere. He's gone missing. Look, I suppose with Drinky, look, mate, I'll probably be looking to get him. Sort of similar situation to I think most. I'm holding Walsh. My other fullback slot at the moment is Gutho. I suppose it becomes that question of Iongi. Like, do we see the value there? If Drinky bottoms out, do I just upgrade Iongi and manage to nab myself one Scott Drinkwater at the right price and ride him on the way up? Look, I think I'd like to see Cowles put two good performances together before I jump on him, but he's definitely getting close.
Yeah, he'll drop 30K. He'll have a 93 break even. It's not that urgent. The real question is Yongi. Like, we're all on him. Fuck, man. It's going to be about a 600 or 500K jump up to Drinkwater, even 400. That's a lot of territory to cover. Obviously, you both got Gutho there as your second fullback, so you might have to go the long way around, I reckon, you boys. Like, put Gutho into your second fullback slot, put Yongi to flex. This is if he doesn't do well again next week. And then look to move someone on for him, get someone else in flex, save a bit of cash that way, and then upgrade a second rower or some shit. I don't know, but it'd be great if Yongi pulled his finger out. Well, not necessarily Yongi. He's playing pretty well. It's more para, right? Yeah, Boxilla mentioned the Drinky looked better with Clifford. Did you think that as well? It gave him a bit more space to cook on the left, especially with Purdue. I thought that looked all right.
Yeah, look, sorry, go.
Yeah, you go, voice.
Oh, look, that was the corridor where he came through right underneath. Like, he came through underneath off a bit of play down that left-hand side when he went over for that almost try. Look, I definitely think Clifford probably offers more upside than Duffy. I think they're probably throwing Duffy in a bit early to start the year. Like, that experiment obviously didn't work for them. Clifford's got a bit more competitor in him, a bit more confidence and swagger. Clifford's also a bit of a ball hog. Like, you and I have both commented that before, Reese. I've seen him bomb some of the all-time greatest, bomb tries, right? Like, where he's just held the ball when he should have just let it go to a center. So he can be a bit of a ball hog. There's one actual interchange of play I remember specifically between him and Drinkwater from last year where I think they've both gone for the ball from dummy half off a break and, spilt their lollies, right? So, look, whilst he does appear to unlock him at the moment, I do have my concerns with Clifford as the full-time Cows half. I wouldn't necessarily go as far to say as it unlocks him. But I think, look, Purdue being there and being more of a threat definitely does help Drinky. Probably helps him slice back through. I think it's more about how busy does Drinky want to get, how sniffy does he want to get around the ruck. How much does he want to be pushing up and support and go from there?
Big time. Speaking of getting sniffy, Dylan, you must have been feeling exactly that after Thursday night when your South Sydney Rabbitohs, of who you have a tattoo on your ass, cleaned up against the four-peat Premiers. Mate, talk to us. How are you feeling watching that and who stood out?
Mate, who didn't stand out? At 28-0 at halftime, I was about to have my third ejaculation, mate. Obviously, that died down a bit in the second half. I was getting my Big Daddy vibes in the first half with a fucking well-inflated hog.
Yeah.
Mate, just being a fan of footy and being a huge Rabbitohs fan, the fact that we have galvanised so much, obviously Wayne's got his magic dust all over us this year. You can just even see it's crazy that even just having a winger like Alex Johnson back and knowing he's there on the left, how much better that made our shape. Just knowing that he's on the end of that, being in the right position for a winger. So, Kaloa Matangi, obviously, I think he crossed twice.
Double, yep.
Double, yeah. He obviously looked pretty good for his 85. Jamie Humphreys has been crashing down a bit back to earth. I'm probably glad I went the Starling route over him, especially with Trell Mitt said to pick up the kicking duties once he's back. AJ, man, like, I'm not too sure what the status of that injury is, but man, if he's there, he's almost someone that you'd almost have to bring in at 433.
6 weeks, and no, the answer is no with AJ, mate. He's the ultimate, like, he'll give you a 60 and then a 10. Yeah, he's definitely like someone to get on if the Bunnies have got a decent run for sure. Because if you look through his scores of like yesteryear, there's definitely a few weeks where we just go 80, 80, 90. But yeah, usually with AJ, you want him to kind of just have a few shit weeks, bottom out about 300K or whatever, and then hop on. But you're right, mate. Like, it's going to be very exciting when he's back, and then Munro. When are these guys going to play together? Like, fucking hell, man.
Yeah, it seems like that with the Bunnies lineup, man. I don't think we've been full strength for about 3 years. The other big thing, and obviously we'll get to this come trades, I think this week Jenkins is a must bring in. He obviously put up 69 again. That means his 2 starts this year, he's put up 91, I think was the first week.
And mate, like
91 and 69. Unbelievable.
one was at fullback, and then the weekend was on the edge. Sorry, at centre. Brian To'o was injured as well. I think that was a string as well from memory. So maybe Jenkins then shifts out to the wing. But very impressive with Jenkins for 215k, 22 tackles, 4 tackle breaks, and about 16 runs. That's about 50 in base power alone. That's good if it's Jacob Preston, let alone a 215k centre. Fucking hell, man. That's one of the easiest ins this week. What do you reckon? How many teams do you reckon is going to bring him in? It'll be at 40%?
Should be higher, mate, to be honest. Like, if that's not pushing 50 plus at this time of the year, I think he's the obvious cash cow this week out of all the people to come out of for this week's trades. Aside from that, mate, looking at the randomize over the scores, Isaiah Yeo, 60. Again, he's pretty consistent. I wouldn't be looking to move to him, but I also probably wouldn't be looking to move him on. He's just one of those guys that stays in your rotation. Lindsay Smith continues to impress, but mate, besides from that, there's not really too many relevant scores that caught my eyes from that game, bar the result. Going to be interesting to see what happens, man. Jai Gray's been electric at fullback in our spot. He's actually got the most running meters in the comp. So I'm right. Obviously, that fullback spot's going to be Latrell's when he comes back. Where do you boys stand on bringing Latrell in? Is he someone you look to move on straight away once he's back for the Bunnies, or is that a wait and see for you guys?
What was the injury? Was it a string or like a shoulder?
I believe it was a string.
Yeah, you can give it 2 weeks. I mean, look, if you're in a, you know what, like if you got Turbo, you probably have a look at Trell next week. I mean, he comes in, kicks goals, plays the chooks. You could go early on him. For my team, my setup personally, he's not a duel, so I don't want to know about the bloke, you know. But yeah, I'd give it 2 weeks myself, and just make sure he plays that third game, given his injury history. But yeah, fuck, he's a great bloke to own. Jugas, I reckon, get on him as a South fan. That'll just be double the fun, you know.
Or double the pain, mate. Either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you are looking at that through red and Myrtle glasses, Jugas, probably. A little bit. I'd wait and watch. I think interestingly, you kind of touched on Yo. He was 694 going into this round. He'll be what
640.
3, so yeah, 640. Like, look, his break even
88 break even.
So yeah, I kind of think Yo might be someone that you look to get in the probably 2 week time frame. Nath coming back can only help him. He's reliable with that base. Like, he'll give you 60 every week, no matter what. I kind of just sit there and think, look, he's probably someone that you can almost get in another week or two and set and forget there in your row. So. Look, I am looking to bring in Yo. That's someone that's come up on my radar off the weekend, just with his price and where it's at. He's as cheap as he'll ever be in about 2 weeks' time. It looks much the same as everyone else. Jenkins, absolute star. Great, grab him. He'll be my downgrade from Samuel Stone Street. Otherwise, probably not too much relevant. I think, Reece, you touched on Lachlan Hubner. I was just going to ask Jugas, the curse of Heffron Park, mate. Is part of that curse watching Ravalawa defend?
Mate, funny enough, I did get sent the reel of him just moving backwards and backwards and backwards the week before and letting in that try, mate, which was a hard one to watch. But, mate, do you know what? Even for the defensive issues that we take with him, mate, he brings a bit of a staunch intimidation to our team. So he's actually been pretty good for us. He was actually great on Thursday night. So just keep those comments to yourself for the future. Thanks, mate.
Boys, before we move on to the next game, I just want to introduce a new segment on the fly here. As the gummies really start to take hold of me an hour in, the segment is called Who Am I? In 2023, I averaged 70 points a game. And in 2024, my scores so far are as follows.
2024, 2025, mate.
2025. So I averaged 70 a couple of years ago. And then this year, these are my scores. 57, 30, 36, 26. After this week, I'll be 420K. Blaze it up, faggot. And with a 75 break even. Who am I?
Jerome Luai.
Soccer.
Fuck. 2023. No, I got nothing. I'm drawing blanks here.
Isaac
Tungo.
Isaac Tungo.
Yeah.
Isaac Nacho. Fucking hell. 420K with a 75 break even. We might be able to be looking at Isaac Tungo as a 380K in a couple of weeks. That's almost just like too good to resist. I know he's going like an absolute busted, but Cleary inside him, Penrith getting a bit better. Just someone to think about. Not a very sexy topic, but yeah, he's not looking good. So you wouldn't do it with much faith. And then a final one to shout out: 80-minute Mamo, baby. How many minutes Starling get? Not as many as Mamo, that's for sure. 64, including a sin bin, which was rough. That was in like the 79th minute as well.
I think it was about 20 seconds ago, mate. You talk about getting those cheese points at the end. It was a complete fucking opposite for poor Mamo, mate.
A couple other games, boys, before we wrap up here. Was one I went to on Friday night at the SFS. There was about 300 other people there as well. So, obviously pretty easy to get to the shitters at halftime. Was the Roosters and the Titans. A game that was fairly tight for the first half. The SFS, even though it wasn't really raining, it was still a bit slippery. The turf quality isn't great there. It's actually all pretty even, about 12 all. Then Jaden Campbell takes an intercept try. As you boys know, P Win, he wants me to wear sleeves, right? When we're in the members, just for decency reasons. And he also said, hey, tonight, put me aside before the game. Hey, he's just like, just these ones, please. But let me tell you, when Jaden Campbell took a 100-meter intercept, I whipped that cunt home like you wouldn't believe. From the stands with Rooster supporters around me. I said, get there, cunt. And then halfway through, kind of realized that Dad was like, I'm going to go. He wasn't loving it. But that was fantastic for Jaden Campbell to save his score. He kicked a few goals after that. But like with Nico, if he can do 63 or 60s on a bad day, happy with that one as a selection. We all have Tino. We all brought in Tino, I believe. Was it? Or no, sorry, you boys already had him.
No,
I brought him in too. Yeah.
I'll left Tino off, mate. Just quickly touching on some of Pete Wynn's requests to you as well over the years, been pretty unruly. Wear sleeves, keep it down, don't smoke.
Go to uni.
Stop letting Dylan sleep on the couch. So those requests, they're in one ear, out the other. And I'll be back to that Barley Hut if you're watching, Pete.
I think just touching on that Tino one, Reese. Look, he obviously went over for a try, right? Look, break even next week, 49. He's gone up 67K this week. We love that. I think the interesting thing with Tino is they're really loving that play because it wasn't that they went for it once; they went for it twice. I don't know if you recall.
Yeah, he dropped it the first time, right?
Yeah, look, he obviously went over in his first game back too. I think he's just an absolute must-have. If you didn't get him last week, get him this week. He's as cheap as he's ever going to be. Out-and-out gun, dual, just everything comes up Tino.
Mate, that they got that, they call it the double lead play, right? Where you got one guy going off the ruck and a second guy kind of almost running a decoy line when they have the first receiver out the back. But what they'll do, Verrills did it quite well a couple of times, just throw that face ball, hit Tino on the outside shoulder as the second line runner. You can't stop it. It's kind of like when Tommy gets going near the line, he just says, give me the ball. You get out of his way. Tino's an absolute ATS special, I reckon, player performance special rest of the year. That play doesn't look like it's defendable. You can't really do much to stop it. Fafita, come off the bench again, 65 this week. He'll be 681K with a 95 break even. I dare say he's probably going to start based on nothing. It's pure speculation, but I'll give it 2 weeks, I reckon. 2 more weeks, and then not KO weeks. And Fafita will be low 600s. He then falls into that same category as Isaiah Yeo. That's about it. Brimson, 63, traded him out, scored a double. Fantastic. That was good to watch. But he scored just as much as Campbell did, even though he's 150K more. So my season from hell continues. Jalen de Groot, he comes in as the rookie fullback after Keanu Kinney sadly departs us for what looks like the season. I don't know if you boys watched much of de Groot on the weekend. He wasn't heaps involved. Only pumped out a 20-odd. It kind of looks like Iongi Volume 2, but he's going to be 232K He's a fullback, and he'll have a wing centre fullback duel. Are you interested?
As a downgrade, yeah, like absolutely. He'll get that run for the rest of the year, right? But look, fullbacks are just always good for getting points. They're always that link man for getting a try assist. Obviously, he managed to crash over too. Had his Tommy. Did it? Oh no, that was Brimson, right? Yeah, sorry, getting my wires crossed there. Yeah, look, I think I'd be interested in him, especially as a downgrade from one of your Arthurs or someone like that. You could definitely do worse.
For sure.
Couple more takeaways from this game for me, lad. Potentially controversial opinions as well. First of all, I have been very unkeen on the Jaden Campbell move. I personally don't see it. The fact that they won a game 30-12 where his goal kicking scored a try and scored 63 reeks of Metcalf. To me, I'm watching the Metcalf experience 2.0 with Jaden Campbell sometimes. Think back to the game where they opened the season against the Bulldogs. He put up 30-odd points and he looked lost. The Roosters this year aren't a premium team. I worry about his consistency for how much he's really going to score. So that's one that I'll be avoiding. Also with Tino, I don't see Tino as a must-have. If he's in your team, great. I think he's gone up around about 77K and this week, and his break-even's at around 45. He's also going to have the origin period when that comes up as well. So for me, look, I'm not rushing to get Tino. I'm certainly not knocking anyone who's going to do it, but I just feel like with the plethora of options in 2RF and front row this year, it seems like there's so many good options. Only other takeaway on this game is Nath White, man. What a player.
Nath White, man.
He heads again into next week with another negative break-even on the back of two mammoth performances, man. So even if you haven't moved on to Nath White, I mean, I think this was a true reflection of what he'll put up. They had Lindsay Collins back. They had Spencer Lenu there, and he looks like he's now really cemented himself as one of the leaders in that pack. So I think it's not too late to jump on Nath White, although there might be better options out there for cash in at this point.
Yeah, just on going back to Peter Wynn, watching Nath White in the flesh the other night, a bloke's good when Dad gives me a nudge saying, "It's Nath White. He's all right, isn't he?" And represented himself. Again, obviously less is more with Peter Wynn, but 16 runs, 34 tackles, 4 tackle breaks, and offload. SuperCoach friendly game, played 50-odd minutes. Yeah, I mean, whether he's a season keeper, time will hold, but he's probably looking even like fucking tickling the balls of 600 if he gets another attacking stat at some point, right? Yeah. That'd be fantastic. Angus Crichton, 78. Pretty much all in base there. He's again another one of these dudes that we want in at ASAP Rocky. 100%. And Jimmy Tedesco, Slips Tedesco, I'm pretty sure he was on like 75 at halftime, wasn't he? Like he flew out the gates pretty early, finished on an 83. His break-even was 94, meaning that he's going to have a break-even 130, 850K. I'm pretty interested in Tedesco as a just general Tedesco fan. I'd love to see him do not very well this week and then be under 800K and then bring him in, because like with who we were mentioning before, he's not going to play Origin this year by the looks because Edwards is better and Drinkwater is also better slightly. That's an unpopular opinion. Tedesco, got to be there. It's just going to be about like who do we prioritize, boys? Like it's going to be the fullbacks, isn't it? Surely, like they got the highest upside. They play both sides of the ruck, or do you like that idea of getting in a Grant that's going to be 200K cheaper? Or do you like to look at Yo, who's 600? A few decisions coming up.
I think this is really the fun time of the year, though, right, where the teams really start separating. Because going into the season, we've all kind of got those same cash cows, like look how many people started owning Metcalf and just a lot of those same type of players where as we are now seeing some production from those cash cows and we can obviously offset that money, this is where you start going, cool, do I think I've now bottomed out on a Harry Grant? Is it a Angus Crichton? Is it a David Fafita? And I would just say to all the viewers that when you're doing that, have a look at the runs. Think about who's coming up in those games because, even if you have someone in for 3 weeks of production, they could be the big differences come the end of the year. So it's going to be interesting, man. I'm probably still leaning towards a Crichton or a Harry Grant over, say, a Slips Tedesco, just because Tedesco's price is pretty high to reach. Yeah. So he'd have to drop a bit more to enter that conversation for me.
But I guess like that's you're paying for the upside in a way. Like it's pretty much if you think that Grant is like, yeah, actually I wouldn't knock either selection, to be honest. I just probably more Roosters bias that push me towards Teddy, especially because he just gets everywhere on the field.
Well, I think ultimately you want like 3-gun fullbacks, like including your flex, right? Like that's going to be the play, is having your fullbacks who can go for 100, 120, 150. Like, you know what I mean? Like imagine you got a round where you got Ponga, Turbo, Latrell, and they all go for 120 plus. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's ultimately going to be it. So look, I think you definitely have to prioritize that fullback selection, and Teddy won't let you down. But in saying that, I think Teddy's value probably occurs later in the year, probably once they get Sammy Walker back. I still think Chooks trying to figure themselves out at the moment is probably not as much of a must-have for me. I think there is other value in that position currently, and things that you can do that will be better than the money on Teddy. I think the Gus Crichton one is interesting. Again, like look, you know, you'd have to assume he's getting close to bottoming out over the next sort of 2-week window. Break even 86.
86, 695K. Yeah, so he's probably going to be 675 at best for us.
Yeah, I mean, look, like, how much of a gun was he last year? And like, look at what he's just done in base. Like,
unbelievable.
I mean, you like, does that just become a no-brainer at that point? Like, because to me it is. To me, he's a no-brainer in 2 weeks' time.
It's just like, you know, we've sat here and we've given about a dozen options. I reckon that I'd take any day of the week. But I think he who wins SuperCoach is just going to time getting these guys in better than the others. Simple as that. So really going to be important to keep a list. As Juga said, look at the draws, guys. Obviously, the break-evens kind of matter, but not really like with these dudes. It's more just like, do you think they've completely bottomed out? But if Tedesco's break-even, as an example, is like 100 and they play, it's a layup of a game, then you could probably justify getting him in for that.
I think the interesting thing as well, just something I want to touch on with the Roosters, I'm sure you can relay your lived experience, winner, your truth, not to be confused with the truth Toya.
Of course.
Mate, Chooks don't turn on till Anzac Day. Hey, like Anzac Day feels like is when the Chooks season begins. There's been a number of seasons like in the lead up. I can't remember if it was 2, 3, 4 years ago now. I think the Chooks are like 2-6 heading into Anzac Day. Like that, and they just explode into this top 4 side once that Anzac Day period hits. So,
well, listen, Sock, I mean, you and I will be at that game with our better halves. Who's an in, by the way. Tick that one off.
Beautiful.
We'll be there with our 2 5/8s, and we'll be watching the last poster. And listen, my hairs will be standing up on my forearms, and I'll have a party in my pants when Tedesco's in my side, probably as the skipper. And he's doing it for the Anzac. Shout out Gallipoli. Shout out Slips.
How about the next game?
Speaking of victory laps, we'll get into this final one. I don't really want to talk about the Broncos game. Yeah, Trapasaki did well. I'm wrong. Again, well done, everybody. But Sock.
I think, just quickly, sorry, I just to touch on the Broncos game. I know we touched on this earlier. Again, Reece Walsh, don't panic. He's lost the value that he had to start the year. They have a pillow draw. Don't sell him. Like, just whatever you do, ride it. He'll come back up. He'll pull 120 out of his ass in 2 weeks' time, and you'll be sorry you sold him at the bottom and have to, try and scramble to offset him. If everyone else has him and holds, you just look like the clown that sold him. I think there's other things to focus on there. But yeah,
Dylan? Dylan, you're a Reece Walsh owner as well. What are you thinking? How'd you vibe him on the other night? Like the arrows were down, which was good. It wasn't his really game. It was kind of raining. Thoughts on Walsh?
Mate, I had one eye on Reece Walsh, one eye on the Steve Aoki's at the local pub, and I was also backing home a 4th leg on a place win-win multi. So there was some important things going on as that game was going. I think at the end of the game, I was hoping for $40 on a Broncos super margin, 31-35. So yeah, that probably shows you where my head was at on Friday night. As far as
payday.
Payday, wrong week. Whoops. As far as being a Reece Walsh owner, I mean, look, I think Voice put it like at this point he's lost his value. So really, if you are selling him, unless it goes horribly wrong, you're probably selling him at his bottom value, which is pretty much makes no sense considering he still is an elite fullback and can have those huge SuperCoach games. So I'm not hitting the panic stations again. You look at someone like a Metcalf, right? If you have in your team, right? Yes, he's not losing value right now, but you look at the style of those two games and you think who really is more important to get out of my team. So as Voice said, if you've got Walsh, I wouldn't panic. I'd be holding him. If you have cash and you're wanting to upgrade him to somebody else, I also don't knock it. But I feel like at this point of the year, if you're 4 rounds in and you don't have bigger fires to put out, kudos to you. But I'm definitely prioritizing my trades elsewhere. I'm happy to hold Walsh. She's not really going to let you down too consistently. It's been a shit start to the year, but that should turn.
Hey, listen, it can't get any worse, right? It can't get any worse.
I've told myself that quite a bit. It surely can, but hopefully in Reece Walsh's case, we start.
Look, I watched Reece Walsh not touch a ball for a whole half against Canberra. So, mate, it definitely can get worse. But you know what? Look, I'll take what was it, 50-odd, 60-odd in the poor and wet in a game that he didn't have too much involvement in. I'll take that every day of the week. But look, Reece, I think you were segueing in nicely to bigger and better things.
I was. I've just got one more question for you boys, if that's all right, surrounding that game. Yep. And the question comes from one of our listeners. I'll just pull it up. Oh, it comes from me, actually. And I ask, do I eat humble pie and bring in Trapasaki?
I think so, yeah. I think this week he cemented his spot over Dean Mariner in that
He looks so good, man. He looks so good.
He looks unbelievable. I don't know if you boys remember this, but he was running around for the Knights around I'd say it's about 4 years ago, and that was the only time he cemented a spot for like a 10-week period in the team, and he was quite solid. You put him in a good setup, mate. He's older. He's more mature. He's now got that spot cemented. I think he's got another negative break-even going into next week. I'm almost positive he does, if I can get
minus 48.
Minus 48. Mate, look, I think you do eat humble pie and you bring him in. If you can bring in... Mate, if you bring in him and also Jenkins this week, that is 2 huge cash generators, plus you'll free up cash and you can get someone in who's going to score points and also get guys in who are scoring well. So if you don't have Shibasaki, I would be moving to him this week without a doubt.
I think for me, look, I think he makes sense. Reece, I know you're keen to get off Jesse Arthur's island. I'm probably a little less so. I think 60 is manageable for him. Bronx have a bit of a pillow draw, as I've kind of touched on. I'm big on the Bronx, at least Arthur's and Walsh this year still, despite what I've seen. Could be the death of me, could be the undoing of me. I have just dropped a head-to-head match against you, Reece, so take whatever I say with a grain of salt. But for me, you downgrade Arthur's to him, and then, look, he probably catches Val in another 2 or 3 weeks.
You're right. It's like that.
Out.
Get to here, and then... Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, no. I think you and I are on the same wavelength there. We're like, look, okay, you downgrade him from Arthur's, make a little bit of cash now. But the true value in having Shibasaki is you get another 2-3 price rises out of him, and he could be almost a straight swap to someone like Val Holmes, who's going to start bottoming out over the next week or two. And Val's an out-and-out keeper, goal kicker. Like you and I, again, we've had stocks on Valentine Holmes Island for years, probably too long, some would say. Val is routinely one of the best CT dubs in the league. I think Saints look like they can put on points this year. A bit of the concern about Val this year was, can Saints score? Well, I think we showed against South that we can. Obviously, we outscored Melbourne in an absolute dogfight, which we're about to get into. So I sort of sit there and think, look, Shibasaki looks a lot like Valentine Holmes in 2 weeks, and that's not a bad thing for any team.
Yeah. Not at all. He just looks so bloody good out there.
A whole lot like Will Warbrick after more than 2 drinks, I'll tell you that much. Oh, wait, that was Will Warbrick.
Well, while we're here, Dylan, how about let's do story time with DJ7 and enlighten. Enlighten, or just let's spin a yarn to the loyal listeners here on a Sunday night.
Yeah, well, let me take you back to around about circa me crashing my car on a drive home. But I think that fateful night was around about 10 months ago. Couple of Britney Spears, couple of Sasaya Fekis, was enjoying myself, having a good night. I actually believe the Storm played on the Sunshine Coast on the Friday night. And then Saturday night, boys, I was actually out and I seen the Melbourne players and I was like, oh, there's a few of the boys. So I walked over. I see young Tonamapia, first of all, make beeline straight to him. Like, hey, are you young Tonamapia? He goes, yeah, bro. Oh, what's up? We're dapping up, having a great time, having a good chat. confidence from getting young Tottenham right coursing through my veins. So I'm feeling pretty confident. I look left to what I now know was Will Warbrick, and I look at him and just with the most confidence go, Germat. And he just looks at me and he's staring at me, and I'm like, fuck, Will Warbrick's a bit of a cold fish, eh? And I go, Germat, Shibasaki, what's going on, bro? Put a hand out to shake his hand. He kind of looks me up and down, shakes my hand. I ask them both for a photo. I wake up in the morning and I go, no wonder fucking Germat Shibasaki was such a cunt. That was Will Warbrick. And then I looked up photos, mate. They're basically different ethnicities, different skin color, so that probably didn't go down too well. And then this year, boys, when I seen Shibasaki as a cheapie, I thought it's an omen. I got to bring him in, mate.
Omen deluxe.
Yeah, unfinished business with me and Germat, and I'd say it's pretty finished business with me and Will. Anyway.
As a continuation, while you got the hot hand here, Dylan, do you see the attacking stats continuing for Shibasaki? One bag score from Tuipulotu halted his cash growth.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a two-part question. For Shibasaki, he's still not going to be high in price, and his break-even is still, it's in the negatives by a country mile. So whether the stats there or not, he's in a stacked Broncos team. He gets through a lot of work. His base is quite good, which is actually why I started him over Arthur's this week, especially in a wet game. At the moment, like, I'm pretty comfortable playing Shibasaki in my team. And I think with Broncos, they're such a stacked team that he's going to get chances regardless. If you're a Tuipulotu owner like me, Homer, I wouldn't freak out yet. He has a break even. He'll go up 67.5K this week. He's got about a 60 break even roughly. It says about 68, but he's been updated since then. Thanks SuperCoach data for the stats. And then Dragons the next 2 weeks are versing, I think, Cowboys and Titans, voice, if that's correct.
Eels and Titans.
Eels and Titans. So, I mean, I think Gutho and Tuipulotu, both those guys, which a lot of people would have brought in, I'm pretty confidently starting them both the next 2 weeks. I mean, obviously Gutho you are, but especially Tuipulotu. Worst case, if he shits the bed the next 2 weeks, you get him out and you move on. And, you know, Val Holmes is pretty close to straight swap territory there as well. Or if another cash cow comes along, there's options.
Homer, before I throw to Socko's answer here, whether the attacking stats continue or not, who knows? But he's made 17 runs on the weekend, and then he made 17 last week, 8 tackle breaks last week, and then it was 11 tackle breaks this week. Admittedly, he was running at Jake Averillo, I've probably got more hope of stopping Jamat than Averillo at the moment. But man, he's running like an absolute house on fire. It looks like his base power is going to be up around that high 40s. He will be with a negative 50 break even. A 40 will then make his break even single digits the week after. So, yeah, I guess you'd love another attacking stat in the next couple of weeks. They play West and then the Roosters. So, you know, not terrible prospects there. Then they go over to New Zealand. Yeah, purely because it's not like a Jesse Arthur situation where it's, 80% price scoring. I don't mind Shibasaki as that stabilizing dude who can get up to that 550, 600 as the boys said before. Whereas Tuipulotu, it's a winger situation, isn't it? It was never going to look good against Melbourne in the wet. Melbourne loved losing that sideline as a defender. But Tuipulotu's base isn't terrible either, so he should still get around his break even. But Tuipulotu is also like 150k more expensive than Shibasaki. That's a long answer of saying, I'm not sure if the attacking stats continue, mate, but I don't believe he's going to pump out a 20 anytime soon either. Socko, talk to us. What happened in your world on Saturday afternoon?
Mate, I can't say that I had 3 orgasms like Jugas. I think I might have had about 8, actually. I was stroking myself every 10 minutes in that game. Defense. Look, I think the boys absolutely turned up. They finally put together an 80-minute performance. Look, I think Flatter had said, look, we probably had a chance to win both those first 2 games, and I'd agree. Obviously, there was a bit of a capitulation against South there, game we probably should have won. So for the boys to get it done in the wet and with a significant amount of possession against them early and still finishing with negative possession, negative run meters, like negative tackles, negative on the penalties, and I believe set restarts too. Like everything was in Melbourne's favour, and the boys got it done. Was absolutely unreal for me. My mate, my main takeaways from the game, there was a moment where you texted me and you said, optics, optics, optics.
Yeah.
And it was in reference to one Dylan Egan starting.
Your favourite.
Yeah, mate, look, I was death riding this kid before he got out there, before I've even seen him go for a hit-up. I'm going to give you some stats. He's gone for 49 minutes on debut. He's kept Clemmer on the bench, right?
Yeah.
Clemmer didn't get back on, and he's gone for 47 points. He's almost at a point a minute. Unreal stuff from the young kid there. Obviously, nice to see Val Holmes also find his kicking boots, like Zach Lomax this weekend. Finally managed to bang over more than he missed. He's gone for 71. Obviously, look, the two main trades people were looking at were Gutherson and CT, as we've kind of just alluded to. Neither of them had a great score. I had the captaincy on Gutherson inexplicably in this pouring wet. Don't ask me about that one. That was some red and white vision going there. Look, yeah, I think just touching on Tuipulotu scores being like halted. I mean, he's done 32 in base, like in an absolute dogfight of a game, and a game where I'd say he wasn't supremely busy either. You know, I think he's capable. He's that meter-eating winger, much the same as Skelton. He's capable of doing those 40s in bases. So him having a 60 odd is not the scariest thing. He'll easily be able to achieve that, especially against Parramatta next week.
Well, not easily. Like he'll need to score a try, mate. Like the break even's dead set 70. Like, how confident are you that?
No. Oh, how confident am I? What, against Para?
Yeah.
I mean, mate, I'm confident in my own. I'm confident in my own ability to get over the line against Para at the moment. Hey, like, look, you know, Gutho's going to have a point to prove against Para next week. Combank, the return of King Gutho or Saint Gutho, as we now know him after his performance on the weekend. Mate, like I think there's plenty of upside around those two Dragons players. I think the big story for me to come out of that game, and just touching on that Dylan Egan point, Emre Gula, 3 weeks. 3 weeks for a crusher. So there are minutes deluxe to be had in that pack. Flano seems to have a hard-on for using second rowers as middles off the interchange. So I think Dylan Egan is capable of getting some decent minutes out. You'll have Couchman and Clemmer to start, and then I think you'll find that Couch will probably get 30, 35 in the first half, and Egan will probably come on at about that 20, 25-minute mark.
Or do they put Cook to 13 and bring Little on a little bit earlier? I mean, Egan's probably still set for 40 minutes. Was he playing edge or middle the other day?
I think he might have spelled Luch on the edge there towards the end potentially.
Right.
But yeah, like it was mainly middle. Like he was playing mainly in the middle. And to be fair, the kid played like a bat straight out of hell. Like a lot of energy, a lot of tough carries. I suppose on the other side of the coin, like you had Eli Katoa just prove again why he is the premier SuperCoach option. 77 try disallowed. Had that try assist to Pappy. Was in absolutely everything. Like
he's unbelievable, isn't he?
Harry Grant's gone for a 70 there, which is interesting. Like, look, you know, I think that's one of his more notable scores this year. Pappenhausen was sort of that similar story as Gutho, and he's only gone for 65 with a try, didn't goal kick. You know, nothing too exciting with that. If you brought him in, you don't hate it, but you probably don't love the fact that he wasn't goal kicking either. Munster with a 57. You know, look, Munster again. I think, like, interestingly, and this is probably one of my questions for you a bit later on, Reece, is about that 5/8 position. But yeah, look, that's another good score out of Munster. They did look to miss Hughes, so obviously Wishart probably had a performance he'd rather forget.
Yeah, I think take all the attacking scores from all the attacking players in this game with a grain of salt. Like, it wasn't pissing down, but it was slippery as. It was 14-8, kind of similar to that Dogs and Sharks game. So I think if we judge like your Pappenhausens and Munsters on that performance, we're probably not doing them justice. But Gutherson probably the same. I thought Gutherson looked really good. Shit scared as non-owner, obviously, given that Voicey was my head-to-head matchup, who I beat, by the way, for the third time tonight. Gutho was his captain. Mate, probably unlucky not to get one try assist down the right when Xavier Coates jumped out and kind of blocked it like he was LeBron James against Andre Iguodala in Game 7 a few years ago. Yeah, Gutho looks so likely. Melbourne did pretty well. The conditions weren't conducive for him, but break even of 40 odd going up against Para. Hopefully a dry track for you boys. That's going to be... Look, man, I guess what I'm saying is I think Gutho's potentially in that keeper conversation, actually.
Yeah. Look, I think all the Saints attacks routed through him, right? Like, I mean, he's just that link man. He is the one creating... it is get the ball in Gutho's hand and let him play his hand. And look, I think that only means good things for him for the rest of the year, right? Like Saints probably don't have those halves to ice games or really take control of the games, and that's going to be Gutho. And obviously, look, with him, his knees probably the way they are. It's not going to be as many tries, but I think it'll be a hell of a lot of try assists and L break assists. That he'll create, and he's at his sniffing best around the middle, like we saw that again on the weekend. He's just absolutely an energy and heart player, and he's in everything, and that creates opportunity, and opportunity is what SuperCoach scores are made of.
He probably should have been binned at the start as well. Remember when Melbourne made a break and then he held back someone from scoring a try, and they actually penalised it? And it's like, so what was the penalty for? Why do you get penalised? Dylan? Any thoughts on that game, mate?
Yeah, we've already touched on the Gutho and CT. The only other things I'd probably mention is I think watching that game, it was a dogfight of a game. The Dragons fans were absolutely raging. The atmosphere was mad. Yeah, that's to so have good. 14, watching that game and with the scores that came out of that in a real dogfight has actually made me pretty keen to get a bit of Melbourne pie and a bit of Dragons pie. To touch on a couple of players, Pappenhausen put up 65. Mate, if there is any half break at any point in the game, Pappenhausen is just there. In a game when they're versing a team that they're running through, mate, he could easily go for 90, 100, I think, regular weeks. Harry Grant in a game where he looked like he was barely involved, he put up 70. That's made me very, very keen to jump on Harry Grant sooner rather than later. Interested. Extremely interested. And then aside from that, I think with Dill Egan, that's obviously a bit of a wait and see. It's only his first game, so I think we'll get a bit more of an indication next week, especially with Gould out of that rotation. Aside from that, yeah, mate, when Pappenhausen scored, because I was probably like a lot of other people when you heard the injury news midweek that he wouldn't be kicking, I got spooked out of Pap, who I was high on, and moved to Gutho. So 17 points difference between them. Gutho's got a more friendly break even next week. I just really think, man, if you're keen on some Dragons players with the draw over the next 2 weeks, I think there could definitely be some points there.
What would you boys say? Because none of us have Pappenhausen at the moment. Homer does say that he's looking pretty good. Back-to-back 60s, Penrith, and then it was pissing down. You're right, Jugas. Like, he's sniffing through the middle. Anytime he gets the ball, shut the gate kind of stuff. They've got great offloaders and Eli Katoa on one edge, Sean Bloor on the other. We'll see Munster, Harry Grant, support play deluxe. Let me ask you this then, boys. If news comes out this week that Pappenhausen is kicking goals again, would you get him in?
I wouldn't be getting him in. He's on the radar for sure, man. Like, that's someone that I'm a bit annoyed with myself that I didn't stick with my gut and just go Pap over Gutho. Now, because of the situation I'm in, and this might be similar to yourself, having Walsh and having Gutho, it would feel very sidewaysy at this point to get to Pap. So I feel like now I'm just going to have to swallow that and probably continue with Gutho, which I'm also not mad about. But yeah, I think
you wouldn't
this year.
You would, mate. You wouldn't trade Gutho for him. No way. Not with.
You'd be looking at
then the only other option then would be Iongi, and I don't really want to let him go yet.
That's what I'm saying. Like, is there a case right now to do it? Because Iongi. I don't think so. Okay, sure. Like, we can wait for him to get good, but Pappenhausen's break even 67. Who do they play? Like, it's a pretty soft draw for the next little bit. If he's goal kicking, like, he averages 90 when he kicks goals, man. Is that a trade you just find the money for? It's only going to be $300K now, but does that trade be $450, $500 before you know it?
Yeah, look, I mean, for me, like, I think Pappy provides you a route to getting to getting an even trade, I suppose, to a gun fullback later on. I think I actually like Pappy at the moment with Hughes out. Like that's probably I almost like Melbourne spine players when one of them's out injured. It kind of
For sure.
Decreases the share of scoring, right? Like you all of a sudden have a Wishart who's really not creating as much. And as we've seen, Munster pulls out 57, which is top in the top 5. Again, Pappy 65, top 3. Grant, second highest, 70, like for Melbourne from that game. So I think when you take that other option off of Melbourne, it really opens up the scoring opportunity. As we've kind of touched on, Pappy with goal kicking. Look, I think you could make the move to Pappy and get him up to 800K, and then maybe you do get someone, for that equal value. Look, I'm happy to sort of sit there and wait on Iongi. I've got other fires to put out. I think I've got other trouble in my side. But yeah, look, mate, I think as Dylan touched on earlier, if your biggest problem is your fullback, then yeah, absolutely. Like Pappy makes total sense, especially over the next couple of weeks. They've got Brookie, I believe, away into the Warriors. Is that correct, Reese?
Who? Storm?
Yeah, Melbourne.
That's correct, voice, yeah. And then into the Finns and into the Bunnies. So it's pretty friendly.
And then Raiders. Yeah, it's not a bad 5.
Very friendly draw. Very friendly draw.
Yeah.
Manly no turbo as well. Let me ask you this, boys. This is a question that comes from me. So, and we can kind of get into trades now, I reckon, as we get towards the close of the show. Wait, let me just say one more thing about Saints. How good was it? If you want to check someone out, look at the Saints team song in the shed. They get around Dylan Egan Deluxe and John Howard's in the background. It's unreal. It's something that will just throw you off on a Sunday night. But let me ask you this. So I'm definitely bringing in Jenkins. I'm definitely bringing in Hubner. Two guys. Hubner I just didn't start with, and I want to get him in. He looks pretty good. 1 point a minute, 50 through the middle. Hopefully that rotation doesn't change too much for him, but time will tell. And then, Jenkins, home run, cheapy by the looks. My other one is either I could do Bullymore to Cleary, or I could do Iongi to Pappenhausen. Which of those two do you like, boys?
I don't think you can go wrong with either, mate. I think it just depends as to getting the right guys at the right time. Like, who's going to argue for either of those trades at the end of the day?
I mean, for me, I think I think the Nath trade's a better trade. Like, honestly, I think getting in Nath, like, that just sorts you out straight off the bat. You don't ever need to look at your halves again. You already own Nico, you own Nath. Those are going to be your premier combination there. It's a locked position. You can kind of forget about it and having to worry about trading in and out. Look, you're probably sitting there going, Nico doesn't play Origin this year, so mate, I'd probably go that route. I think Iongi has that potential to grow. He's going to do a 50, he'll do a 25, he'll do a 60, he'll do a 32. Like, it's just going to be that kind of burn with him. But once Moses comes back, you'll get a bit more continuity. I don't think you're going to miss out on having Pappy now, but I think with Nath coming back, Penrith are a totally different side. And Nath is the key contributor there, right? Like, he is the one where all the points will flow, and SuperCoach points too.
Question here comes from Boxzilla. I'm not sure if it's Boxzilla or Sam writing this one in, but is it madness using another boost and being down to one boost at this time of year? Sock, that's how you live, isn't it, mate? You live without boosts. Boosts are
mate. They wouldn't give you 5 of them if they didn't intend for you to use at least 4 of them, right, in the first 5 rounds. Mate, I'm not far off you. I've only got 2 left myself. I had to do some quick fix-ups on my way to sit and pretty at, 27,000 or whatever I may be at the moment. Look, I don't think there's a problem with using it, but at the same time, you probably wouldn't want to use that last one. You'd at least want to have one sitting there. There will be a horror show round. We've kind of seen it this round where, if you say had Turbo and a couple of the other guys that have gone down injured this week, you might need to pull that trigger. That repeats again in round 19, 20, something like that. You're going to need some boosts there. So, mate, nothing wrong with using the 4th, but I probably wouldn't be using the 5th anytime soon. I will say that. I think, Reese, question that I wanted to ask you, and I'll throw this over to you and DJ7. I've got Trindle and Dewey currently in the 5'8" position, right?
Christ.
Dewey, yeah, drink. Mate, Dewey obviously, look, he's pulled up lame today in the warm-up. Who are your targets in the 5'8"? Like, look, obviously I got Trindle there, but he's another Metcalf scenario, has a floor of 12, has a ceiling of 100. Like, what are you vibing for a 5'8" this year?
Well, I know who Dylan isn't vibing, and it's the guy I'm vibing. It's Jaden Campbell. What do you reckon, Seven?
Yeah, mate, it's funny enough. In my trade notes here, I have Metcalf 2 and then about 17,000 fucking question marks because the 5'8" position's a fucking wasteland. Going back to what you said about Storm missing a piece of the puzzle, one of the things I am looking towards potentially doing this week, like I'll go through my trades now anyway. The first one's Arthurs to Jenkins. That's gonna free up cash. And if I look through the rest of my backs, man, I've got Toya, Shibasaki, Mazu, Tamale. There's no one else there who's the obvious choice besides Jesse, so that's by default. Regarding your one voice, I want to move off Metcalf and I want a piece of that Melbourne pie. I've obviously missed out on that with Pap. With Jerome Hughes missing and then Melbourne having a pretty good run, I just feel like this could be, Munster's time to really cement himself that he is still that guy and capable. He had a great preseason from all reports. He seems really focused this year. He scored, 50, 55 in a game when they scored 8 points in the wet. So, mate, if they get a couple of dry tracks, I think the only two legitimate options, or for me, I don't like Jaden Campbell. It would probably be either Munster or Lockie Galvin. And as Lockie galvanized as the Tigers look this year, I just feel like Melbourne have more points on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Very fair shout, mate. Very fair shout.
That's how I was feeling. I suppose, look, whilst we're at it, I'll touch on my two trades. First, Stone Street, out. Experiment over. I'm getting rissoled in this chat every Sunday night about that selection. The Feel Street is Feel Street no more. He's gone. He's gone. He looks a hell of a lot like Jenkins right now, and I think that's what it'll be at 11:01 tomorrow morning. I suppose my other trade, look, I wouldn't mind getting in Hubner as well. I sort of feel the same as Reece there. Egan's potentially someone I'll look at. I suppose whether I go on Egan is dependent on, or Hubner will depend on whether I finagle Munster into my side. I don't love the fact that I've traded in Trindle a couple of weeks ago, but I also can't be wearing 15s at the same time. I look like a genius, and he somehow missed his 30 break even this week. So
you made a couple of all-time trades this year, to be fair. A few all-time decisions. It's only a month in. I reckon just keep it going, mate. It's good content.
I've had some hell of a vibey picks, starting off with KO Weeks. Rumor has it they're still looking for him up at Country Bay Stadium. He couldn't be found. Went missing under a high ball and wasn't seen again after about the 27th minute. So, mate, look, I think for me, look, Munster's definitely someone I'm interested in getting in. I think he went close to, if not hit his break even just this week. So he's he's not going to increase by a huge amount or decrease by a huge amount, but he feels like quite a solid pick, obviously, while Jerome's out with that hand injury. In saying that, though, I'm trading someone in who I'm going to have to trade out in another 6 or 7 weeks for Origin, right? So, definitely Jenkins, and then it'll either be Hubner for a second rower or Munster for tricky Trindle. But we shall see. If I go Munster, it'll be Egan the week after.
Just on that note as well, boys, I always think I could be boosting this week. I think I've almost talked myself into fucking off Hopgood and picking up Angus Crichton, 86 break even. Man, you really want to start getting in some of those guns. So I feel like this week I got a bit of spare cash. I'm probably not as rushed where I am at to get in 3 gun fullbacks. Yes, that is the end goal. But I think this year, cash gen for me is so important for my overall journey that I just don't want to cut anyone else's off short if I can maybe move someone away when I feel like they're going to drop more and I could be getting points in elsewhere.
So just to confirm, you're looking at Hopgood up to Crichton, Arthur's down to Jenkins, and that's it?
No, and also boosting to get Metcalf to Munster. I've currently got 182 in the bank. So I'll free up around about 250 extra from moving Arthur's on, so 430. Metcalf to Munster should cost me around about 130, and then that would leave enough room to get Hopgood up to Crichton.
Happy with that, eh? Fucking hell, that's decent. Hey, don't sleep on the orphanage. All I'm saying is don't sleep on the orphanage, baby.
Or the only thing is I go the other direction and I downgrade somebody to bring in Bailey Hayward and then free up a shit ton of cash to make more moves the following week. I still really like the look of Bailey Hayward coming in. I think, mate, he's going to get money. So if there's someone that you can move, even Dimitri Valmarga to Hayward could be an option.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you? He just had the game of his life, mate.
Mate, he's just 35 in the bet. What have you ever done? What have you ever done, Jingus?
Mate, speaking of cash, I've got 407K at the moment in SuperCoach, obviously. And once I trade Arthurs to Jenkins and Metcalf to the Sun, also known as Hubner, I'll have a cool 937 grand sitting in my back pocket, courtesy of trading out Tommy Turbo a couple of weeks ago. Guys, we all sat here on this pod and we said we didn't like the optics of that injury. We said it was weird how it all happened. We said the way he's going to be out for a week, didn't like that. Listen, let's not have a victory lap over someone's injury, obviously. But, you know, that was we had the conversation at that time. It's like, man, if you can move off some dudes who you reckon are too highly priced and they're not going to play it, could set up your season and have about $1 million before I make either of those next 3 moves, which will all be maybe even 4 trades that will bring in 4 guns and get me back on track, get me out of the 30,000s. Before we finish, boys, a few questions from the chat. First one comes from Homer J. This is for you, Seven. Is Dylan Brown worth holding, considering the black hole that 5'8" is? He also has Munster.
Yeah, being a Brown owner, man, I'm not considering moving on at this point. Like, he's still putting up. I think he's basically hit about between 50 to 60 every single week. Although there is the downside, it's a bit of a double-edged sword with the Eels being so weak. Their points are limited, but it also helps that if they do score points, generally speaking, he's going to have his hands on it. So you kind of take the good with the bad in that regard. His base is pretty good for a 5'8". He gets through a lot more work than a lot of other 5'8s do. So unless that's one of your prime concerns, then I wouldn't knock that move. But I also feel like holding Dylan Brown isn't a bad thing. Like, I'll be holding him for the foreseeable future anyway.
Mate, last season, he averaged 60 up until round 8. Then there was a 90, a 70, a 66, 76, 82. And he eventually finished the season averaging high 60s. Like with Hopgood, I know this goes against what you're doing, Jugas, but yeah, I just have to sweat it out, man. Again, it's not ideal that you've probably paid 100K more than what you should have for a guy. Like, you'd rather the opposite, no doubt. But he's not doing 20s. Like, if he can still pump out 50s, like in a shit week, which unfortunately there's a lot of shit weeks at the moment. Moses isn't too far away, apparently. White knuckle it, man. You never know when that duel will come in handy as well. With, well, I mean, for you, Dylan, like if you're going to try out Metcalf, you could probably use Dill Brown's duel, right, to get to someone or whatever. Other way around.
Potentially. Maybe. They're both in the same spot, though. It makes it a little bit tricky.
Yeah, almost impossible, some would say, actually.
Yeah.
Another madness question. This one's for you, Socko. With the injury to AD, which, by the way, what was the injury to AD? I know he pulled out.
Groin.
His groin?
He pulled the love muscle. Yeah.
Well, we've all been there. Was there any type of basis done timeline-wise, or was it all kind of just last minute?
No, it was very last minute. It was in the warm-ups. Middle of the broadcast. Like, they're like, oh, by the way, AD's cooked his groin. Like, middle of the, I suppose, in-between game show. AD's cooked his groin. He's out. In comes Fatape. So
Boxilla's asked, would you downgrade to Latu, who likely gets minutes now? Latu being Latu Fino. Who's Latu Fino? He's another guy Manly let go, by the way, just as they did Humphries. And then they let Cherry Evans go. They didn't offer him a contract. But, yeah, Dewey plays in the centres. I don't know why Latu Fino would come in. He's a
I don't understand that so much as to where those minutes come in. I think, like he was plugging a hole tonight.
You're being kind. Boxilla, get off the gummies, mate. That's ridiculous. Latu Fino is playing for Reevesby Workers at the moment. What are you talking about?
He comes in again and he says, a South supporter telling us to get on a rooster. Well, Dylan, that's something for you to think about.
Dylan's a player of flying cocks.
Mate, I'll actually be. This South fan will be at the Bunnies Chooks game on Friday night with this Roosters fan here, mate. So, yeah, it's going to be a very interesting 2-hour spectacle. Throw a Manly fan in the mix, and you've got a fucking cockfest, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, a lot of disrespect. Keaton Owen, a man that continues to cop strays on this show. Give us the whipping boy in the head-to-head competition. Look at the smiles of the victor. So the victor go the spoils, Keats. But he puts his hand up and he says, "Hey, legends, I'm talking to the both of you because you both stunned him in consecutive weeks, boys. Looking sharp. I'll just talk about me there. What is the aim for team value this year, and when is the optimum round to get there? Please give examples." From year, I'm guessing he means from last year. I'll take the reins of this one, boys. So last season, I finished 11th as I'm living off for a while by the looks of things. My team value was 16.2 million by the end of it, about a 4.2 million increase over the season. I think that still rings true. That essentially means you've got to find 25 guys over the year that all go up in about 200K. Okay, just hear me out here. We've already obviously found a few with your Shibasakis, or you boys have found a few with your Shibasakis of the world. The Mamos, the Starlings, that's all good. Look, there's two things from here, guys, all right? We either find these dudes, like let's use Isaiah Yeo as an example, who's 600K. He's probably not going to go up to 850 anytime soon, but he's probably 100K unders for what he is by the end of the year, right? I'm sure you'd both agree. We want to find those guns who are like around that 60 price point right now, but they're good enough for 70, 75. That's 150 in effect there. And then obviously we also want to find, two other guys like your Dylan Egan's who are basement price, who also have 150, 200 in them. And then other guys who are in the middle range, like a Bailey Haywood that Jugas has mentioned. Jugas, if you trade in Bailey Haywood, you and the other three blokes that own him will be cock a hoop for the next 6 weeks.
What, the Bailey Haywood Friends and Family Club?
Yeah. So yeah, that's to answer your question, Keats. That's it, man. How do you get there? Well, optimum round, it's kind of, I guess, it's a season-long thing because you're always going to be hunting for those dudes that are undervalued. And the example from last year is that one. Anything to add there, boys?
I'll jump in for 1 second. I was just going to say, Keaton, let me give you a couple of facts first. The two guys next to me, I actually went into this round already leading on overall points, and I've only further extended that lead. So I'll just take this question, boys. Being a first-time
March premiers,
being about a first-time Supercoach in about 10 years, I'm going off the vibe this year, right? I think as long as yes, it's great to get that optimum value and call my team's worth X amount. You even look at the first couple of early few rounds, a lot of the big dogs who are worth a lot weren't the ones scoring points. So I think generally speaking, if you can just focus on getting the right guys in at the right time and moving the right guys off at the right time, and you pull those triggers right, I think ultimately your team value will middle out to where it should be, to what you're effectively aiming for. But the trick's going to be obviously getting in the right guys at the right time and getting off the other guys at the wrong time. I think Reece had a couple of good suggestions at the start of the year. I think Colma Tuolungi was one, so maybe just go back and check the files.
Yeah,
go back to the archives that have since been deleted.
Keith, I wouldn't be listening
no longer available.
Hold on. Look, Keats, I wouldn't be listening to the bloke that's just told you he's going to be making vibey picks. Next thing you know, he'll be going, I like the value of this Hammer bloke. He's been averaging 30s all year, but, fuck, he can run, eh? Mate,
it's got a hot missus.
Look, you take your Bailey Haywood and you go be quiet in the corner and play with the other 20 SuperCoach fans that own him. Mate, for me, Keats, yeah, I think what Reece said is true. I think the guy that maybe even did you in last year, Reece, and came first, right? I think they were up around the 17 miller mark. Look, most money gets you there. So I suppose it depends on how you do that. For me, that'll be trying to get some guns in who I can just lock and forget. Payne Haas and Terrell May probably sit there in the front row. Tino for me sits there in the second row. That's a lock. Preston, if he keeps doing 125s, absolute lock. Nathan Cleary, lock. Ruben Garrick, absolute lock. So look, there's some of these players that are just absolutely locked in from the start. And you need to have those. It'll conserve your trades. Like, you won't have to worry about trading those guys in and out. You just know they're going to get you to where you need to be by the end of the year. It'll then be about using the remaining probably, 17, 16, 15 positions. And as you get down through the year, less and less, right? Like, you just lock in that gun, make sure that you've done your homework. They've got a good run, get them in. Timing the guys coming off of Origin, timing the guys going into Origin. As I said, anecdotally, like with Reece last year, he absolutely nailed the second rower picks. It was Angus Crichton on the right week. It was Britton Nickera on the right week. It was David Fafita on the right week. Like, there was a number of those. Keon Kalamatangi right week. Like, as you saw him go back to the middle, it was like, yep, I'm on him now, and rode him from the basement to the penthouse. Like, those are going to be the guys where you can then kind of go, sweet, that guy's a keeper for the rest of the year, and you got in Angus Crichton at 250, 300K below value. You got in David Fafita, 200, 300K below value. And these guys are capable of putting up 90s, 100s, whilst also really only having a floor of probably, that 60, 70 mark. I think a good mark for any player is, can they churn out 50s and 60s as an absolute floor? And that's why we're talking about moving off guys like Metcalf and Trindle, where their floor is 15, right? Those are the kind of guys you don't want to have in your team. You want to make sure that you're getting guys where their floor is a Dill Brown, where it's a respectable score.
I love how Keaton's asked the question, and we've just given him one of the great 15-minute answers of all time, just to remind him that we know what we're talking about, because he doesn't. Because he's lost a couple of head-to-heads. So, rewind that, Keats, and make of it what you will, because we're definitely right.
And send that note to Adam Voicey as well whilst I'm here. I'm not sure if he's watching tonight, but that bloke traded out Ruben Garrick last week to watch him go for 150 to message me about how does he get him back in this week, right? So shout out to you, Adam Voicey. You probably traded out Presto last weekend too, didn't you?
I hope you found the Netflix password as well, mate. And we will have the viewers know that whilst Jugas does have a massive 80-point lead in the overall stakes, it is just March, and it's unlike a South supporter or a Saints supporter for that matter to feel like they're premiers at this time of the year. Boxzilla, he says, Iro to Jenkins for me. Don't blame you, mate. Iro is out for a little bit. He also likes Tom Cant of Tom Cant fame to be better over the other guys we mentioned, and I can't remember.
TBH, mate. It's Chanel Harris Tavita's brother, I believe.
A couple other ones. The finish comes from Paddy. Pronouns are he, him over here, boys. Make of that what you will, viewers. And then another one from Paddy. Socko, you're alive. I was about to send a search party after you, mate. I will say, I love the mountain man look as much as anyone else here. But I'll never say no to a well-manicured bear. A lot to take in there from Paddy.
Paddy, I've missed you too. And look, if you could respond to my text message, that'd be great, because I'm looking for love tonight.
Right, he's put out the mating call. Couple final ones to finish here, boys. Darkness, my old friend. Cam Wynn, Eels #1 ticket holder. It hasn't got any better for him. Eels row and 4, Captain Turbo, relentlessly dacked by Dabble. The bookies did the fucking on Cam Wynn this weekend. One of these weekends where you wish you were a, in brackets, weird and untrustworthy bloke who isn't into sports.
Right, Camo, I think you've had too many of those little edibles, haven't you? It's time for bed, mate.
He's not wrong, though, is he?
Stay away from Golden Jubilee car park, Cam.
No, he's not wrong, mate. That was a tough weekend to swallow. Some of us also got pants. Reece kept the best bets to himself, mate. Don't let him fool you. He's actually gone 13 from 13 this weekend. He's just posted some market manipulators in the group chat. So Cam, mate, when you want some actual tips, come to the sock, eh?
And he's right. Like, blokes who don't like sport are weird and untrustworthy, and they don't like drinking piss because they're not fair dinkum Aussies.
And the final one tonight, boys, comes from our man or lady or who knows what the fuck this thing is, Big Daddy. The Cronulla Sharks, Turbo's body, SC7's facial hair. Things that are weak as this.
Don't worry, you're not the only ones copping strays on this show, mate. Go fuck yourself, Big Daddy.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been there's been a few feuds that have developed in the Gibbers WhatsApp chat in recent times. Shout out Keithy and Harry. Tell you what, run it straight at Magic Round, boys. I wouldn't mind seeing a Big Daddy versus DJ7's facial hair matchup at Magic Round, the Run It Straight challenge. What do you reckon, Dylan?
Mate, if Big Daddy wants to tee it up, I'll if it's sponsored by Better Call Solar and the proceeds are going to a good foundation, mate, let's tee it up. Me and Big Daddy running it straight. Also very keen to watch a bit of Keithy versus Harry, mate. That was popping off in the group chat today, boys. Remember, if you're getting G'd up over SuperCoach, reassess your life. I've told you all this, right?
Can we get a battle of the billionaires circa, I think 2007, McMahon versus Trump? DJ7 versus Big Daddy. Loser shaves the head. I mean, Dill's already, he's already lost a bit up there anyway. So, mate, look, it wouldn't do any harm.
Put him out of his misery.
Mine will just be natural selection, mate. So it seems like a pretty fair fight.
Well, there we have it, guys. We made it. We got to the end of the show where we all basically scored within 50 points of each other, at least the three on this panel. And we're happy to be here. We did muse in the green room or via the text thread that we probably wouldn't have done this show if Turdo put a daddy ton up today. But that didn't happen. So we're here, we're queer, and we're loving SuperCoach this season so far. Boys, any closing thoughts? It doesn't have to be SuperCoach related. It can just be generally about life if you want.
Yeah, look, I reckon you should be going hard on Friday nights, not Sundays, right? Give yourself that extra day to recover before the following week. That's my tip. Otherwise, you'll end up missing like me on a Sunday night.
Well said.
Just message her is what I'd say. Just message her. If she's on your mind, just message her. Before you know it, you're eating edibles and you're watching a scary movie and it's like you'd seen her last weekend. So if you're thinking about it, boys, just or him, message him or her. We don't discriminate here. And put yourself out there.
My advice is really simple as always. Fuck the bookies and bowl full. Get fuller.